How's it going, guys? Welcome to Forehead Fables podcast. Today, our guest is a returning guest. Usually, once they're on once, they don't come back on a second time. They stop answering emails. But this guest is a crowd favorite, Mr. Told in Stone, Mr. Dr. Garrett Ryan, Esquire. He's a YouTuber, specializes in ancient Greece, ancient Rome. And I asked you guys, I said, hey, the patrons should feel included in this. Let's give them a voice. So I asked you guys on Discord, I said, you guys got any questions for Mr. Dr. Garrett Ryan Esquire? And I got about 100 questions sent in about 20 minutes. You know, you guys were really on top of it. Maybe 12 of them were actually good. The rest were just like, how gay was Sparta? Let's talk about how gay fucking Sparta was, you know? And then there's some people that I think just wanted to like fulfill some sort of fantasy. They're like, could you in detail describe how they were gay? It's a good episode, I think. Lots of good history covered. I don't think we retreaded any ground, which is good. And he is here because, you know, this guy ain't gonna come on here just to hang out. Yeah, he's got a sequel out for his book. It's called Insane Emperors, Sunken Cities, and Earthquake Machines by Dr. Garrett Ryan, Esquire. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoy. And I'm sorry all the episodes for this month were kind of towards the end of the month, you know, with Vegas and everything. And Poob went on like a hiking trip or something earlier in the month. So, you know, we got them all done. Don't worry. You know, welcome to Forehead Fables. We have, once again, Told in Stone here, Dr. Garrett Ryan, most educated guest we've had. He's back. He's written a second book, and I haven't read it yet. I read the last one before I had you on. This time I got about 15 pages in, and then I fell asleep on the plane. I'm sorry, but don't worry, because I have gone through, and I asked the patrons if they had any questions for you. And there was about 1,000. And then I weeded out all the questions about how gay the Greeks were, and we have about 50 left over. So
that's actually surprisingly high.
Really, seriously, that's a good ratio.
Yeah, it's pretty good. But I think, honestly, before I even get into theirs, I was reading a little excerpt in here about like it was musicians in Rome. Mm-hmm. And I was thinking, like, you know, immediately when I'm reading this, I was thinking, like, what the fuck would I be doing in ancient Rome? Would I be unemployed? Like, what, like, people like us, would we have a job? Yeah, would gamers have a job?
What would gamers do in Rome?
Yeah.
Right? That's
I would be
question.
a philosopher. I don't know about you guys, but you would probably be, you'd be a gamer in a gladiator, maybe.
I was thinking more like orators, you know, like people that just like talk for a living. Okay. Like, would there be a room for like any sort of talk show in Rome?
Well, do you guys ever see like the show HBO Rome? It's like 15 years old now, but they had this news crier, this like, you know, obese dude who shows up and like, you know, hear me, Romans, you know, this is today's news, basically. Yeah. You could be that dude, maybe. You know,
Did they make good money?
I doubt it, but they didn't starve, so you know.
Okay, that's good. Well, you said he was a big fat guy, so I'm assuming
he's eating well.
Definitely.
Yeah, he's got a lot of food. That's good. Actually, that was one of the questions. Did you see HBO's Rome and did you like it? Was it accurate? Was that any good?
I'd say like B minus. Yeah, it was pretty solid.
Really?
That's good for a Rome show. Often they're just like, you know, again, as a historian, I'm torn between like think something is awesome and think something is accurate. And that was a show that was both pretty routinely cool and also pretty routinely almost kind of accurate. And for me, that's pretty good. You know, that's a solid B.
Yeah. So it's up there with like 300 in terms of like,
300 the awesome bar was up here. The, you know, the accuracy bar was down here. Like when the Rhino Cavalry showed up, I'm like, okay, I know what kind of movie this is. I'm still on board, but I know what kind of movie this is.
Did they wait, do you think rhinos were ever fucking used? And I know the elephants were used, but
they came to Rome. So we know actually one emperor imported a rhino at huge expense from sub-Saharan Africa all the way to Rome to show it in the Colosseum. And this thing was such a huge hit because they hadn't seen a rhino before, or not in like 100 years. They put it on the coins. So there's like a rhino just shows up in the back. Like, look at this thing.
Sweet.
I imported 5,000 miles to come to the Coliseum.
That's awesome.
It just wrecked a bull. Like they had a face of bull and just charged and of course threw the bull over its shoulder. And the Romans love this stuff.
Yeah.
I'd be so fucking scared if I were in the audience.
Yeah.
See, I know what a rhino is, but when I go to a zoo, I haven't been in years, but I'm like, holy shit, those things are huge and scary.
Intimidating.
Every animal in a zoo. Like, I just saw a video of a giraffe the other day. I'm like, I really don't think about how insane giraffes look and how big they are and like powerful. And even like on a way smaller scale, like, you ever see a big ass cow? Like,
oh yeah,
it's just a cow, but they can be so large, Don't really know where I'm going with this. Some animals can be larger than you'd expect.
Some are small, some are huge.
There's even dogs that can be quite big. Great Dane, for example.
Yes.
Or a
Speaking
cat.
of the Coliseum, though, have you not to interrupt your big animal?
The meeting of the minds here.
Do you want to list any more big ones before I go on?
Maine Coon cat.
Those are some big ass cats, yeah.
Bigger than you'd expect.
They are big.
For sure.
Okay, so
rats in New
we're
York.
talking about really factual historical epics. You've seen that movie Gladiator with Russell Crowe? Yeah. In the beginning, when he's like, he's first a gladiator, they bring him to like these much smaller, shittier gladiator coliseums, like the, I guess, like little rinks. And then, which is like, I'm assuming like doing bare knuckle boxing and then moving up to actually being a boxer. Did those actually exist? Like before you make it to the Coliseum, did they just have like smaller scale gladiator fights?
Oh yeah, there were dozens of these things. Yeah, right, exactly, like the little leagues or the minors. So they're there, and some gladiators, if you become famous, if you've got a cool party trick where you eviscerate your opponent or something, you might make it up to the Colosseum. It's organized by troops. These guys who have like say a few dozen gladiators. They run a school of gladiators, it's called, and they own these guys. They're almost all slaves, and these troops travel around. There's like a regional circuit, kind of like circuses used to be. So you have one guy who travels around North Africa, one who goes around France. And if you're a really notable troupe, like your gladiators are known for being very entertaining, they might be invited to go to the Emperor's Games in Rome. So there is kind of you work your way up through a provincial circuit and up to the Colosseum.
Have you ever played the game Domina?
Oh, no, I haven't.
Unfortunately, the devs like kind of went off the deep end and like became pretty crazy, and I think the game got pulled from Steam and everything. It's a really cool like gladiator training sim, and you would get all the different little types, and then you'd do your like regionals and work your way up. It was cool.
How did they go off the deep end, if I may ask?
They went on a massive tangent, like political tangent in their own Steam comments about
they got banned on Twitter.
Let us do that, like blah blah blah. They just basically did everything a Steam dev could do to be removed from Steam. And now they're like incredibly salty about it, which sucks because the game was good.
Loosely tied to that, by the way, I've noticed that when I asked the patrons questions about the ancient Greeks and Romans for Dr. Garrett Ryan here, there seems to be a big overlap between political extremism and interest in the Roman Empire for some reason.
Or World War I.
Yeah. World War II also is a real popular one for extremists nowadays.
Certain aspect of World War II.
Cold War.
It's a thing. Even on my comments, I see it. People who are, for whatever reason, really hard right see in the ancient world some kind of, I don't know, an idealized, hyper-masculine state that they want to emulate. Like Sparta especially becomes like a beacon for these people.
All the gay sex doesn't throw them off?
Well, they kind of overlook that stuff.
They do.
It's not gay if you're on top.
That's what I hyper-fixate on. That's weird.
That's what I'm thinking about.
I really zoom in on that. But I actually did remove. There was a lot of Sparta gay questions here, but
we'll work through that.
Actually, I said that, and then I go to pull up the first question, and it says, this is from the guy named Rulers. He says, if you can pass along this question to Mr. Tolden Stone, I must know truly, how gay were those Spartans? I think you asked that. You answered that last time. That one made its way through.
But this one's maybe
Quite.
Poob might be interested in this.
What's the answer?
I've never
How
seen
big
it.
was a big ass
The big
animal?
animal. Yeah, it was the big animal.
Some guy named Borb, he was like, how accurate was Percy Jackson? Wasn't that like about Greek gods and stuff?
I love
Yeah.
those books. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't read those. They're kind of after me, you know. They showed up, you know. I mean, from probably in general,
read.
the gods kind of, you know, correspond in general to how they appear. I guess my generic answer would be that the gods, there really was no one vision of the gods. You know, that they appear in one way, and say in Homer, in a very different way in the Greek plays, a very different way, say in the Aeneid. And so you kind of pick and choose the god that fits your story. That's probably what happened with
Best
Percy
way
Jackson.
in Percy Jackson series. Or the other off-branching ones. They have one with Roman gods.
Oh, yeah.
I can't remember what it's called. One with Egyptian gods. It's just a great place to learn
I mean,
mythology as a kid and have some fun with it.
Sure.
I really have some fun with it.
Well, kind of a fun fact. The Greek gods thought that their gods were the same as the Egyptian gods, but that it was their gods in disguise. That there had been this terrible monster called Typhoeus, and the gods all got the hell out of Greece because he was terrifying and fled to Egypt and disguised themselves as animals. And that the Egyptians had kind of cottoned onto that and like, oh, that's, you know, these guys are pretty cool. So it was just their gods, you know, in like a wig or like, you know, cat costume or whatever else.
I'm sure that did that fuck with the diplomatic relations between the Greeks and the Egyptians?
I feel
You
like
turned my god into a furry.
Yeah, exactly. They probably just, you know, didn't bring it up, I guess. You always wonder.
Yeah, that's such an
talk about this.
awesome
Don't think about
origin
it.
story.
Yeah, right.
Your gods are our gods, but they're just wearing a funny hat.
Yeah, right.
They're fucking with
Groucho
you.
glasses. I know that guy. He's just wearing Groucho glasses.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Yeah. There's a lot of questions about I guess technology.
Mm-hmm.
They have iPhones back then.
No, they didn't have fucking iPhones. No, you did have a great story about this guy that he used steam power to basically shake a guy's house that was pissing him off to make him think it was a fucking earthquake while he was having a party. This guy was wondering, like, they had steam power. They knew about steam power, but they didn't have coal, supposedly.
No, they had coal. They actually used coal for heating, and like in Britain, for example.
Really?
But they didn't put two and two together to make, you know, like a railroad, for one thing. But there actually were primitive railroads in the mines of Spain. They would cut like slots into the stone and like slide carts along them. But what it comes down to, like why they didn't industrialize, is there's a lot of factors that play into that. There was no industry driving it, really. Yeah. And, you know, they kind of optimized what they had, which was these, you know, often slave worked estates, these big mining operations. And in those spheres, they used their technology pretty well. Like they pumped water out to these, like, you know, gang worked pumps and everything. But when it came to steam power, because they didn't have, again, for whatever reason, opportunity, or just didn't occur to them to employ it in these, like a, you know, either as a steam pump or as a steam engine. When it came to steam, they just use it as toys, pretty much. They have like thing that like spins a little bronze ball around,
straighten out their togas and stuff.
Exactly right. You know, right? Yeah, they make that endless job a little bit easier.
Yeah.
I guess it just seems like a lot of work when a slave could do it. Like why, you know, like why spend all this money and time getting like an artisan to make like a steam powered door opener or whatever,
so that their grandkids could have iPhone.
Yeah, right.
They're not very forward thinking, these people. Yeah.
I want my grandkid an iPad.
But they actually did have steam powered door openers. It's funny you mentioned that. Like they had this little device that would like have a puff of steam and the doors would fly open. It's like a party trick. Yeah, they figured that much out.
That's very cool.
But, that's a little bit more advanced than I thought. Some guy
steam-powered animals, like metal, like brass, lions on steam. Yeah.
Well, kind of. They had like the Byzantine emperors had this throne that would levitate. It had like a little piston beneath it, and they would, you know, give it a hit of steam, and the guy would suddenly shoot up to the ceiling, you know, and freak everybody out. And it had both lions and birds built into this mechanism. So the lions would roar with a little compressed steam coming through their throat, and the birds would chirp, you know, for the same thing. It's like a thinner flute of steam. So that
and it would just like a jet fighter pilot, like it would just eject him up
like
into this.
It'd be like a really, really good office chair, pretty much, or go up and down. Okay. You know, but but plus,
I thought you meant like splat.
Like just like
got sent up.
The emperor
you know, that would
kill himself every time.
Inconvenient. Yeah, I don't know how fast it moved. You know, but,
that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
There was somebody wrote in about they had like supposedly inventions for like I guess maybe like a steam powered bread kneading. Like, did they have any machines for labor?
Bread kneading when I've got
right, dough kneading,
bacon or whatever.
I'm not aware of that. That there are these, like, famously these mills that churn out huge amounts of flour. You know, that they array them all along like a steeply falling stream. There's an example in France where it could churn out enough bread to feed a city of 100,000 in a day. Things like that. But I don't know of any machine that did that. It's a pretty simple process, like knead out dough. But they did have, they harnessed water power in a way that allowed them to mill a whole lot of grain really quickly.
Oh, awesome. I get the feeling you just implied that the patrons are dumb as shit and they don't know what they're talking about.
Your words. Where'd you get that?
Here goes another one slipped through. How gay was it? Was another question. That one's so vague.
But seriously, how gay was all of it?
All of it.
Curiosity.
I mean, it's
Scale of 1 to 10.
as a blanket, kind of boring historian statement. What we think of as gay, as a sexual identity, didn't really exist in the ancient world. So there are people whose preference was for the same sex.
I want to go back.
But it wasn't like it was separately defined, like this defines me as a person, that I prefer men or I prefer women. It just sort of was something you did, and it was tied closely to masculinity. So even if you happened to prefer, like several emperors preferred the company of, say, young men or boys sometimes, unfortunately. Even if you were like that, yeah, right, that's not as great. The fact that you acted like a Roman in the rest of your life, that you were a general, that you were, an emperor, and you kind of filled the part. That's what mattered much more than your personal life.
They filled the parts, all right.
Yeah. Sure. Unfortunate turn of phrase, right?
Yeah. I got a great question here from Simo Luck is his name. He said, why is it Herodotus is really the only historian that we hear about? Is it just that his records tend to be the only thing still around? And also, which emperor or consul do you think jorked it the most and hardest? Hold on, I'm gonna
another gay one in the sky.
I don't know what jorked means. Let's look that. J-O-R-K.
I can guess, but
oh no, a jork is a male asshole who thinks he's superior to all others.
Oh, okay. So that was a little different. Well, let's take the first question first, maybe, and we'll kind of work up the jorking. So I would say that Herodotus, we hear much about him probably for two reasons. First of all, he appears a lot in college curriculums, so you learn about him more often.
Yeah.
And he's just more fun, honestly. He's a lot of these wacky stories about, gold digging ants, about Egyptians doing crazy things. He's kind of half historian, half anthropologist, and combining both with someone who doesn't really know what he's talking about, but is trying, trying really hard. And so Herodotus is the first historian, the father of historians, and that we have his whole work, and it's very entertaining, means we read a lot of it, as people hear a lot about him. Thucydides, who only comes a generation later, is a much more, as we would see it, serious historian. But he's not a whole lot of fun, frankly. And so he's not assigned a whole lot in the same way.
What was that guy that lived in a clay pot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, right. Yeah. James. And then, so there, it's let's see, that's Diogenes, the cynic, lived in a giant pot. And he actually did jork it in public. That was one of his things, because he was a cynic and thought that we should have no shame about our human functions.
Gotcha.
But yeah, he lived by the Agora, and he would hold out. I think this is him. He hold out a lamp in the broad daylight and stare at people, trying to find a wise man. He was a dick, pretty much, professional dick.
Yeah.
But he hung out in a big pot and trolled people, essentially, and that was his philosophy.
The original
so awesome
trolling for jorks on my big pot. This guy rocks.
The original fucking Oscar the Grouch, dude.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Yeah,
it's awesome that he was so good at it that people know who he is thousands of years later.
Exactly, right.
Yeah. He was like your personal hero, Sam. Yeah.
He seems awesome.
This guy was just
asshole.
Apparently he didn't fucking shower or nothing. Yeah, he just hung out in a pot all day.
A great story. Alexander the Great comes to see him because he's famous. And of course, Alexander's already, the king of Macedonia. He's poised to conquer the world. And he goes to ask Diogenes, who's kind of sunning himself, and naked, I assume, or almost naked, in this agora next to his big pot house.
Yeah.
Diogenes, can I do anything for you? He's like, yes, get out of my sun. He was like standing in front, his shadow was over him. So that's how much he cared about, anything. Yeah, he kind of He did his
Wait,
thing.
was there like any?
Killed,
Yeah, I was about to say, is there any chance of like Alexander just beating him to death right then and there?
Alexander respected him. He's like, okay,
okay.
this guy's got it going.
That would have been great if he did you get something on your shirt and then fucking.
Exactly,
Imagine doing that to Alexander the Great. That would
exactly, yeah, made you look. Yeah, right. Then he would have had his head cut off. But as for the Jorking question, next week we can address that in due course. Honestly, they all jorked in the sense that they were, it was being emperor meant proving you were superior to other people more or less subtly. And some people were worse at this than others. If you're Caligula, for example, you call yourself a living god and demand worship as said god in the middle of the forum. Most people are more subtle than that, but yeah, they're all jorks.
Is there a least jorky? Just a really humble, just kind of chill dude.
Yeah, I mean, like a Marcus Aurelius or somebody. He at least seems to pull it off, where he's like kind of a self-hating jork, maybe.
Okay,
gotcha.
Okay.
Yeah. So who would you say is like the most respected? Not now, not through the lens of history, but like to the Roman people at the time, who was like their favorite emperor, where like that's the thing that all other emperors should be measured against, and then on the other side, who was like their one that they're like, this guy fucking sucks.
Don't do this stuff.
Yeah, don't do this shit. Because, I think now, because of Christianity, I think people look back on Nero being horrific, but I don't know if this is true. I watched a video where this guy's like, actually, Romans actually kind of like Nero. He was pretty tight at the time, and then Christianity kind of skewed our perception of him because he didn't like the Christians so much.
No, he didn't. But Nero, for example, it kind of depended who you were. If you're the Roman people, Nero throws a great party. Nero will put on these awesome shows. Distributes stuff to the people. If you're a plebe, great act. Well, he thought he was. It's one of these things. He shows up. He apparently had kind of a raspy voice. But so if you're just a pleb in Rome, he's pretty cool. He gives you cool stuff. If you're a senator and he kills people like you, or at least disrespects you, you don't like him very much. So it's kind of a two-pronged, and if you're a Christian, of course, later on, because he, did preside over this, or seems to have presided over this persecution. But to return to your first question about the emperors the Romans liked best, Augustus himself, the guy who started it all, he kind of got it figured out, and then Trajan, a new emperor when he was sworn in by the Senate or was proclaimed by the Senate, they would say, "May you be better than Trajan," because he was kind of the test against which all emperors were tried. Because again, he did everything an emperor was supposed to. He conquered new territory. He was cool at the Senate, not actively murderous. It's good. I
like how low the bar was for just being a good emperor in person. It's just like don't fucking murder a lot of people, and you'll be looked
jorking
at
it all the time in public.
Exactly.
He's living a big ass pot. He's a pretty cool guy.
Right. But on the other side, we got all kind of again a Caligula, someone who again just kind of, if not actually insane, is someone who is throws away all of the whole rule book and just does what he wants, which is be a megalomaniac.
Yeah.
Or everyone's favorite Elagabalus, who is this teenager. We talked about him last time actually. This teenager who becomes emperor of Rome and just goes nuts basically, or seems to go nuts. Tries to replace the Roman pantheon with his own god, which is a rock, by the way. It's a big meteorite. Tries to has these brings naked women through a chariot drawn by naked women through the center of Rome. He does a lot of pretty wacky stuff. But again,
all of which are really cool, but I feel like some of that stuff you might want to space out with
cool
good
for,
public
a frat
works.
Party.
Exactly right. Build a highway, then bring in the rock worship.
Yes. You might want to space that stuff out a little bit. Isn't that the guy that had sex with a Vestal Virgin or something like that?
He did, yes.
Yeah, that's a big no-no, I heard.
It's a big problem. Yeah. Literally, it's right there in the name, right? Vestal Virgin. So, that's the Romans, the traditionalists, who are the Senate, of course, aren't a big fan of Elagabalus because he does literally everything that terrifies them.
Did that make him
really
smarten up a little bit?
Sam, but
okay, go for it.
It's over.
Oh,
I'm just gonna interrupt you and then not tell the joke.
You did the worst of both worlds.
I'll cut it in 4 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah.
No, it got him killed pretty quickly.
I was gonna say, did they smarten up and not give absolute power to like a 15-year-old ever again?
Actually, they gave it to a different 15-year-old who was a mama's boy and listened to his mother, and so that he was much more biddable. So they gave it to his cousin, who was like, Severus Alexander.
Oh, okay.
And then absolutely
like Norman
killed
Bates
him.
Is better than Elagabalus or whatever.
Exactly.
Jesus. Yeah.
Anyways,
what were you gonna say, Pooh? You got anything to?
It was just like so funny that
I noticed you did like a little fart noise while we were talking earlier.
Was
that the wind up? Was that the punchline?
It was just awesome. Like I was still a work in progress. It had something to do with rock worship. Like this guy would have loved, Black Sabbath or something. Like so into rock worship. It was really. It had a time and a place. And I shouldn't have interrupted you, and I'm gonna apologize.
Honestly,
I'm gonna bite my tongue for a while.
I didn't think about that. That would have been funny at the time.
Stall it at the end.
But take the clip of Black Sabbath worship and shift
Put
that
a clip
back
of
a
them
minute.
playing music in too, so people can know what I'm talking about.
Black Sabbath is.
Carrot Top, Carrot Top bit.
Yeah, Carrot Top bit.
I
got
got
a Carrot Top type in
Do you think the Carrot Top would have been real successful back then?
Actually, yes. They loved, pantomimes, who are essentially they're not quite prop comedians. They're kind of a more they're almost like cross that with like a modern mime, and like ballet too was kind of strange.
Did you say they were more sophisticated than
Carrot Top? Yeah. Clearing that.
That sucks that a comedian from 2,000 years ago is more sophisticated than Carrot Top. Dude, you're talking right now to Carrot Top's biggest fan, okay? This confetti is from a Carrot Top show. I just went to go see Carrot Top.
No, nothing against Mr. Carrot Top.
Mr. Top.
Yeah.
Mr. Top.
Yeah. Senior
Brothers Easy. I'm pretty glad I missed that Carrot Top show. Everything I've heard from it doesn't make it sound the most.
It was something you went to laugh at.
Too? Like, it was like 2 hours.
It went way too long, dude. He overstayed his fucking welcome by 30 minutes.
Awkward moments. It was great.
That's cool.
I remember he walked off stage and then like everyone got up, started clapping, and Sam's like, "Oh, thank God we can leave." And then he walks back up. And
I was like, nobody was calling for an encore, dude. Nobody wanted you back.
It was actually hilarious. It was people got up to looking for an exit, and then he's like, all right, I'll do another number. He came back out.
There's some people that are like shuffling towards the door already.
Get your ass down.
We're not done. Yeah.
I got you for 20 more minutes.
Lock the doors.
God, I can't get out.
That is
the next riveting patron question.
Oh no, oh shit! Hold on, I accidentally clicked on something.
Oh no!
Hold on.
Oh no more. How gay were they questions?
I just went by another one of those. This one's from Swamp Andy, and Swamp Andy asks, "Did the Greeks think it was cringe that the Romans stole their culture?"
They were a little condescending.
There was condescending.
Some beef? Oh, there was some beef. I mean, again, they were part of the empire, so you can only condescend so far before someone sends a legion after you. But there was a sense that really what they did, a lot of them kind of moved to Rome, intellectuals, and would kind of become either like a permanent dinner guest, kind of just like a hanger-on in a rich guy's house. Like, oh, you want some philosophy? I got some philosophy because I'm Greek. Or they would become like teachers. So they kind of use it to their advantage in a lot of ways. But there were speeches where it's like, what did Rome ever do for us? And it's like, well, they kind of showed up and conquered us to our culture. And, as we had an aqueduct now, that's cool. Yeah. But there was most Greeks, at least the ones whose speeches are preserved, claimed that they saw the advantages of being part of a giant empire that kept the barbarians away and kind of put an end to the intercity warfare that had been a Greek thing since, time immemorial. But there was long simmering sense that the Romans had kind of swooped in, taken a veneer of Greek culture to themselves and, left the Greeks to kind of molder.
I'd be pissed.
Yeah. I would be kind of a little bit pissed too.
I would hold a grudge.
Yeah, right.
And they kind of, I feel like the Romans, like, what do you like more? Do you like the original Greek gods, or do you like the Roman versions where they just renamed them?
there's something to be said for a generic version of things. It can be
like the planets.
Right. It's just a little bit cheaper, but it's almost as good usually. So with the Greek gods, the Romans, they had their own gods before the Greek gods were appropriated, but they didn't have much of a personality, it seems. Or if they did, it's been kind of submerged beneath all the Greek myths. The Greeks, when the Romans came in contact with them, had this rich tapestry. All of these, they had the Homeric epics. They had all of these, plays already in many cases. This tradition that the Romans were like, oh, that's pretty sweet. Our gods are kind of similar. They weren't like their gods in animal suits. They're just their gods straight up. And they had some of their own gods who they kind of kept on, like Janus, the two-headed guy, for example, who weren't part of the Greek pantheon, but otherwise were like, well, they're pretty much the same. Just a little light renaming, give some better beards. Roman Mars is a great beard. So I think the OG ones, the Greeks, are probably, there's a little more to them in some ways, but the Romans come up with some of our best tellings of the myths are Roman authors, like Ovid, for example. Many of the Greek myths through this Roman author. So, that's useful.
Rick Riordan.
Right. Ricus Riordanus. Right.
Yeah, he told great tale.
Yes.
The series of the lightning teeth and good mythology.
Mm-hmm. This isn't even a fucking question.
There's too many gay questions.
It's just funny how
I
just sat there and I did this like 30 minutes before the show started. But the Zoomer dialect mixed with historical questions is just so funny. Like some of the phrasing, like what this guy Niralis was like. What
emperor's got the most riz?
Why'd they kill my boy Jesus? What the fuck he do? Also, Brutus is a bitch for doing his homie like that. Why he do that?
Okay, two very big questions.
Yeah.
I mean, are those serious questions? Maybe tackle that. Just very briefly. So, why is Jesus crucified? Because he's seen by the Roman governor who kind of freaks out, sees him as a rebel, basically, and tries to appease a local faction by having this guy executed. So it was kind of Roman power politics, kind of a
who was the local faction?
I would say that the Sanhedrin, like in the Bible, kind of Jewish traditionalists, or rather a faction of them who saw him as a threat. But really, it was the panicky governor, Pontius Pilate, Pontius Pilatus, who's like, well, let's keep everyone happy here. Light execution's what we do. We're Roman.
He made everyone happy through all the history.
Exactly. And no one was ever upset about it again.
Yeah.
But as for Brutus, he thought he was doing the right thing, apparently. He was an idealist. He wanted to restore the Republic. There's a great story. It's a false story that he was actually Caesar's son, that because his mother, Servilia, had one of Caesar's many lovers. But it was after he was already born, we believe, long after. But he knew Caesar very well. Caesar actually had helped his career in a couple of ways. It wasn't a personal grudge; it didn't seem to have been. He was passed over for anything. He just seems to have thought, really, that Rome needed Caesar gone, and this was a matter of principle.
Were they above just not asking, or couldn't they just ask people why? I feel like when these emperors are there, their first line of action is always murder them to death. They never did any. Even Napoleon we exiled. Yeah, they don't just kick people out.
What about a nicer way to kill a guy? One big sword chop through that.
Right.
Yeah.
Be polite about it. Look, I'm going to stab you, but just kind of sorry.
Yeah.
So there actually are some examples of this where the Romans spared enemy leaders, let them kind of chill in Rome, which is always kind of funny, I think. Zenobia, the queen who almost tore away the whole Roman East in the 3rd century, was captured by Aurelian, one of these great soldier emperors, and he brought her back. And he brought her back to Rome, paraded her in the triumph and everything, and then she just kind of hung out in Rome the rest of her life. She ended up marrying a senator. I don't know what happened. It's okay, well, I'm here now, whatever. But usually, before a triumph, they would just kill the enemy general.
I thought it would bite them in the ass. They actually had successful sparings.
Yeah, it happened occasionally. And she's just
if you take them away from their people, they took they just made her live in Rome.
Right.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're not going to have any followers.
Win in Rome,
Exactly. Yeah, right. Exactly.
Make that joke 4 more times.
Exactly. Space it out. It's all good. But in general, they were kind of a shoot first, ask questions later sort of people.
When in Rome.
So when it came to Caesar, he definitely had warnings that this sort of thing was brewing. but he chose to ignore that. Actually, his plan was to, kind of GTFO, to get off to Parthia and fight them, because he knew Rome was dangerous for him. But
really?
they killed him right before he was going to leave, like a week before he was going to leave.
Oh, God, that sucks.
Yeah.
Well, why was it so dangerous for him? Like what were the cracks in the foundations of his ruling that made his good friend Brutus turn on him?
I mean, he seems to have been a pretty good and effective ruler as far as that goes. But the thing was, he was one dude, who was essentially ruling as a king in a society that had been so very violently anti-king for 500 years. And so, the whole Roman aristocracy, the whole thing, the perk of being a senator is that you have a chance at having absolute power to be a consul for a year. And if you're Caesar, they're still consuls, but they don't really have power anymore. You've got one man calling all the shots. And so pretty much he's taken all of the dreams of these, this power-hungry elite and saying, no, I don't think so. That's for me and my cronies to do. And so it may have been Brutus was being so noble. He actually wanted, he wanted power, but he wanted it within the traditional system that Caesar was replacing by becoming king in all but name and appointing all of his buddies to the key spots.
Oh.
Yeah.
So how much longer after I'm assuming, I don't know a whole lot about this, but I'm assuming him crossing the Rubicon was the beginning of this, right? And that when he seized power was him coming down into Rome.
Yeah.
So how much time passed in between the seizure of power and him getting
Seizure
word. Yeah. 5 years. So he
5 fucking years.
And he's fighting the whole time. It's a civil war between him and Pompey. Pompey is this other great general who has the support of most of the Roman Senate. And so he fights him, and then later, if he defeats Pompey, all of Pompey's supporters for continuously almost for most of those 5 years. And then he's only really ruling in Rome for 18 months. He's not there very long.
I thought he was there for a decade or so.
Yeah, it sounded like it was a long time.
He gets murked really quickly. But yeah.
And then everything returned back to normal, and everything was happily ever after once he was killed, or did they go back to no?
Everyone killed everyone else for the next 15 years. It was a really savage civil war that ended up with Caesar's adopted son Octavian becoming the first emperor, and then it became stable finally, but only after a very long.
I would figure Octavian would be next on the chopping block as soon as Caesar was killed.
Right, and that's one thing.
Was he hidden, whisked away somewhere?
He was a student off in Greece, partying, one assumes. But the conspirators, to their credit, didn't do a bloodbath. They didn't kill all of Caesar's line. They didn't kill Mark Antony, who was in Rome, who was Caesar's lieutenant. They just killed Caesar himself. So they were actually a little too scrupulous. They'd killed Octavian, who would have done much better in the long run. Yeah. And killed Mark Antony, who was the obvious who became very quickly the focal point for all of Caesar's disappointed supporters who were still around Rome, and his veterans who both knew how to fight and were really pissed off their general had just been killed.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. It's a fascinating period, but not a good time to be an elite Roman, because the odds are someone wants to kill you at some point in this 20 years of continuous warfare.
Wait, you said it took a couple years of bloodbath and civil war, and then there was another emperor again. Did they ever return to just having
a republic?
Yeah, a republic.
I mean, they claim they did. It's under Brutus and Cassius, they call themselves the liberators, and they restored what they called was the republic. But immediately they were almost immediately in conflict with Octavian and Antony, all of Caesar's people. Yeah. And when Caesar, once Octavian and Antony and Lepidus, their third wheel, once they won that first war, they established the triumvirate, the second triumvirate, which is a dictatorship basically. Over the Roman world. So even though the republic still existed and would exist, even under Octavian/Augustus, it was still there. But these guys just didn't have the same kind of power. There was one, or in this case before, more than one strong man calling the real shots.
Okay. Interesting.
Yeah, Roman history, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's vast. Wow.
It just keeps going. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sad there's not any more of it coming out.
No, honestly, what's really cool though is if what I have a hard time doing is placing when these events happened chronologically. And there's some great websites out there that just have like putting it in timeline form, so you can kind of see events when they happened. Like I had no idea when Alexander the Great was around, but seeing that actually in timeline was kind of cool. But I have a question from this guy, Subject Delta. This one I have no idea about. I don't even know if you know anything about it. Actually, it would be funny if you didn't, considering it is, I think, Greek, it looks like. Ask him about the Eleusinian mysteries. I think he'll get a good kick out of that. Is what he says.
Well, actually, consider me kicked. Yeah, I'm into it. So this is one of the most famous rituals in the ancient world. It was near Athens, this place called Eleusis, kind of a suburb of Athens. And there were these mysteries that we don't know anything about even today. The secret was kept for 1,000 years. And so initiates of the goddess, once a year, it was like a 3-day thing. They would process down to this sanctuary on the sea near Athens, and they would be shown something. It was the goddess. It was Demeter and Persephone, the goddess of the grain of the harvest, and her daughter, who was taken off to Hades. And they were shown something, and they would witness something. It might have been like a divine play or like symbols of the goddess. And supposedly anyone who saw this thing would be transformed. They'd have a better afterlife, and they'd just live a better life thereafter. And so it was initiation was open to anyone who spoke Greek, which is kind of cool. So you'd be a slave, or you'd be an emperor, and you'd still be initiated at the same time in the same way at this sanctuary. But the cool thing about it is that we just don't know what they saw, what it was that this transformative thing that they experienced. There's theories about that there were drugs were involved, that they ingested like bread that had like ergot, this fungus on it, and they were tripping pretty much, and so they saw they ran like a loaf of bread, and they see like a monster. Who knows? But it's probably just that it was the experience was kind of this very it was in this building, this like big auditorium like building. It was kind of a cool sensory experience. They stayed up all night, there was fasting, and it was the community, I think, that made it this big transformative experience.
The Sphere, Las Vegas.
Yeah, a lot of overlaps between those two.
Yeah, it's actually the same thing. Yeah.
How common? Oh wait, no, carry on. Go.
I just remember last time I asked if you had read Lest Darkness Falls, and now I've got another book question. If you've read, it's not really a conversation. It's just, have you read Lords of the Sea, the epic story of the Athenian Navy and the birth of democracy?
I honestly have wanted to read that for a long time, but I have not actually done so. Did you read it recently?
When I was away once, and my only time abroad, that book was just in the little library, and I read like half of it. It was pretty good.
Yeah.
Did not finish it. It's quite long, but just curious if you had read it and if it was worth finishing, but you haven't. So
I mean, probably it was well reviewed, but yeah, it is cool how Athens, Athenian democracy is kind of a product in many ways of the Athenian Navy. It's the oarsmen are kind of the arch Democrats. They're poor guys usually, but they're pivotal to the state having this big empire that spans the whole Aegean. So they come back, they kind of vote, and they drive a democracy in a lot of ways.
Wait, that was the birth of democracy? Was rowers?
It wasn't, but these guys are kind of like the key constituents in a lot of ways.
Okay.
They're like them, and of course like the Athenian, the farmers and stuff, but yeah, it's kind of cool. Athens has this huge navy with these triremes, and the mechanics of how triremes work are really cool. They rebuilt a couple of them to see how fast they could go. It's just it's cool experimental archaeology when they do these things.
Huh. Yeah. The going back to that Eleusinian mystery thing, because you said that there was like some drugs involved.
There's shrooms.
I was about to say, did they have any drugs back then? What was there?
Any silly sauce?
Silly sauce. Well, they had opium. They had a lot of opium.
We were just talking about opium like a couple episodes ago. What the hell happened to opium, man?
In general, it's kind of not fashionable anymore, right?
We need to bring back
opium pipe
dens.
or something.
Yeah,
it's not sexy.
Yeah, opium den style stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they used it medically, or at least that was in theory used medically. So like Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, would have opiated wine every night to help him sleep for a while.
Awesome.
They used it for all kinds of cures. Yeah, right. Yeah. Opiol. But for the most part, as far as we can tell, the usual intoxicant of choice is just wine. They put stuff in wine, like opium, for example. But there's not a lot of evidence for recreational drug use. I mean, they had various things, and like opium above all, herbs. They knew had this effect. The people who live in what's now Ukraine, the Scythians, they apparently smoked marijuana. They were all about hemp. They had kind of hot boxing. They go in these sweat lodges and have these burners with hot coals on them and throw hemp on them, and they'll kind of create these clouds of marijuana smoke. They would get high on. But
what percent? What percent was that shit, dude?
Yeah, that sounds awesome.
Yeah, is that
it's like
indica or sativa?
Yeah.
By the way, when you think of like hotboxing culture, I don't think Ukrainians as being the leaders of that.
The proto-Ukrainians.
Maybe you should open your mind, Sam. Okay.
Yeah. Sorry, they just don't seem like a hotboxing culture.
As the Scythians did.
Cold there.
Yeah, I mean, it probably would be kind of refreshing, like
I would love to
combined with. But actually, they find remains of this stuff in the tombs of the Scythian chieftains. Sometimes that just like these like censers and vases are just crusted with the residue of this opium or kind of marijuana smoke. Yeah,
I'd smoke that shit. Get some powers.
But the Romans and Greeks didn't do this. Or at least they didn't write about it if they did. And so we just don't really know how widespread recreational drug use was.
Yeah. Like the Scythians, right? Isn't that what their names are? The Scythians?
Scythians,
yeah. What was like the farthest reaches of, I guess, communication with the Romans?
With these people?
Yeah.
I mean, the Romans especially, they were aware of China, for example. There was actually a couple. There's a famous story about some Roman merchants who either are really, really lost or really, really ambitious, who go, oh my God, who go all the way to China. And this is crazy in the ancient world. They're probably from like what's now Syria. And they, the Romans traded a lot with India, for spices above all, spices and silk coming down from China. But these guys went from India around Indochina all the way to the Chinese emperor's court. It must have taken them 2 years to get there. And then they have some like really crappy trade goods that they lost their actual goods in the shipwreck at some point. And it's like, we have this rhino horn, and this Chinese emperor is really unimpressed with them, but he writes about it, or rather his chroniclers do. So we know about these Roman merchants who made it all the way to the China Sea.
Dang.
Imagine being so unimpressive that they write about you.
So he's like, that they came from somewhere really far away, but we were not impressed with their trade goods.
Just give me like a fucking keychain.
Did they even get anything from
Rome on it?
Their travels?
And they went, in the south, there's supposedly the Phoenicians went all the way around Africa. We don't know this, but since there was some navigator who apparently took like 3 years to do it, he circumnavigated Africa, which didn't happen again to the Age of Discovery.
Really?
And the Romans themselves, merchants went down to Zanzibar, which is south of the equator, all the way down there, or right at the equator.
Saw a giraffe. They were probably shocked by how big it is.
Yeah.
Well, actually, so here's a fun one. So Caesar brought a giraffe to Rome, and everyone freaked out. Everyone loved the giraffe because it's like, whoa, this is a very big animal, as you said.
It's weird looking too. What kind of
creature is this? Yeah, it spans time, right? It's a big animal.
Yeah.
But the Roman in the north, I'm trying to think. The Romans sent expeditions to what's now Poland to gather amber. They kind of grow it. It's natural. It grows on the shores there. And they might have gone even further into what's now like parts of Russia, like the Baltic states, merchants, but their armies never got past what's now like Eastern Germany.
Oh, really? Okay. Mm-hmm. So they never like went stomping around in Scandinavia or anything?
Yeah, I mean, why would you? It's just, it's really cold. There's not a whole lot going on there. But we find like Roman coins in what's now Sweden because they traded with these guys. So we find coins in really weird places. Cool. They found a Roman coin in Japan, and no one knows how it got there.
Really?
Did someone trade it out there? Did someone end up there? It probably from later on, someone's collection or something. We don't know.
Yeah.
But it's fun to think of the story behind the Roman coin in Japan.
Huh. Oh, I did buy some. I bought some of those like Roman coins.
Oh, you did? Yeah, the unclean ones.
And then
I got one somewhere that's cool. It's like a little pendant.
Yeah.
Mine are so worn down and they're so tiny. I wasn't expecting them to be so tiny. They're tiny little things, but
the cheap ones are like the size of a dime. You have to pay more for the big ones, unfortunately. And
did they start off big, or were these always this small? Did they get one?
They're little tiny.
Right. Like on Gap, the giant like stone wheel things. Yeah. Actually, they did start out big. The Roman currency at first, it was bronze by weight, so these huge fist-sized lumps. That was the first Roman currency. It was super impractical. Yeah. And like, let's make a coin. The coin was like this big, and that was stupid. So they realized that when the Greek general Pyrrhus invades Italy, they had to pay a bunch of troops suddenly. let's have a non-stupid currency. And so they shrink the coins down to a more manageable size. But the coins that you clean, the coins you might see, like the bigger ones, are usually from the first 3 centuries AD. And they can be from like a silver dollar size down to like a dime size, the really small ones. Later on, as the empire became poorer, there was a lot of inflation. A lot of the coins are kind of low value, very small, kind of flimsy. So a lot of the ones you get for cheap, are late antique and tiny.
Gotcha. Let's say you're like super wealthy back in the day. Do you have like a bank? Like where the fuck do you put your excess coins?
Rocks.
I mean,
did they have locks on their doors? Like what?
Yeah, I mean it's all good questions. I mean, so the really wealthy people, your money's in land mostly. Land and like ships. You own stuff.
Things never change. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And then you can trade things. They have like bills of credits. Like you can draw up a bill of credit for 2 million sestertii, and then that is like a check, pretty much. You can trade that. It's like a deed to a property.
I was trying to lure him into saying sestertii so I knew how to say it because I've been reading it and I was like, the fuck is that word? Okay, so anyways, yeah, like there was a freedman that had like 60 million sestertii when he died. And I was like, wait, you just have like a Scrooge McDuck room with a bunch of coins in it? Or?
I mean, they had that too.
Really? What's to stop like 5 guys from just walking in there and doing like a Danny Ocean?
Right. Usually you have like a whole bunch of slaves who'd be guarding that stuff, but
slaves wouldn't just say, let's kill this guy and take all of his fucking money.
I guess they're super loyal. I don't know, but we find like safes from Pompeii, like these big iron safes. And we should know about, there's one that was like robbed, there's some like board cut through. It was from a literary source. They cut through the bottom of it, like, again, Ocean's 11 style.
Yeah, that's genius.
But for the most part, you have it in investments. We know about people who like emperors. I think it's Nero has like a giant pile of gold, or it's Caligula. There's a giant pile of gold dumped out in the floor to see what it looks like. It's like 1 million, sestertii dumped on the floor, and he like lays on it, because he's Caligula. But for the most part, another guy just has like a cart he brings with him all the time. It's just 1 million sestertii in it at all times. Probably it's in gold. I don't know who guards the cart.
Yeah.
But yeah, in general, right. But in general, yeah, it's just invested in stuff, and so you're not carrying around huge piles of money. You're trading like deeds to things. That's how you do a big transaction. Like I have a house that's worth 3 million sestertii. You have a house worth 4 million sestertii. I'm going to buy your house. I'll buy your house. You give me a deed to that house, and I'll give you either a deed to my house or like deed to one of my properties, or like So there are banks, but the really wealthy people don't really use them all that much. They more kind of trade debts basically in this kind of sophisticated way.
Oh. So credit is still very important. Did they have any sort of like credit score? Was there like guys where they were like, don't do a deal with that fucking guy. He'll screw you over. Like,
yeah. Your credit rating was that guy's a dick. He'll take your money.
Yeah. I guess it was just kind of word of mouth. They didn't have Experian or anything back then.
Your credit rating is D. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, I have a great. This isn't even a question. It's kind of just written like a joke. This one's from Latina Liquor.
Okay, right. Cool. Good start.
Says, Doctor, is it true that the Greeks invented threesomes, but it was the Romans that decided to add women to it? That's kind of funny.
It actually is kind of, yeah. Well, actually, to give the best historian answer I can to that question, I mean, like, who invents a threesome? Like, come on, like the cavemen got bored, right?
Yeah.
But so to judge from Greek paintings, Greek vase paintings, and we don't know how realistic these things are. It's kind of like a weird fantasy world in Greek vase paintings. There's a lot of homoerotic vase paintings, and in general, it's just couples, often uncomfortably like a man and a boy, but it's just kind of couples. So there's a lot of group sex stuff happening in vases. So sometimes it does, but it's like if it is, it's often courtesans who are female. So there you go. The Romans did not. We're not the ones who dumped the women into the mix there.
Oh, no. Well, I wasn't actually expecting a genuine answer, but thanks for enlightening me.
There you go.
Yeah. It's why I'm here, Sam.
I have a question for you, Sam. Is it liquor with like a CK or is it liquor with a Q?
It was liquor with a CK. Yeah.
Okay, I assume so, but I was just wondering if
it's about what I guessed. Yeah.
Yeah. Mezcal or something.
This one is a great question that Poop you might like. This guy, Tiger Leroy. No, he asked
what I would like.
Were there any Greek cryptids like cryptids before. I told you. Yeah, that's a good ass question.
Maniculture.
So they're very much are Greek cryptids, and in fact, the manticore is a good one. So it's actually Persian originally. It means, I think, like a man eater in Persian or something. And they're supposed to live out in India. All of the crazy things live on the edge of the world, right? Because no one sees them. Yeah. And the manticore's thing is that it can imitate human voices. So call out like a child calling for help, and you come around this and it eats your face. Because it loves man flesh. It's all it eats. The manticore, man devourer, and it has like that crazy like scorpion whiptail thing. Yeah. But there's all kinds of cryptids. And again, how mythical they are. The Romans kind of half believe in these things. It's a lot like mer people, for example, like Nereids and Tritons. That's mermaids and mermen. So like there's at some point someone in some Greek city that they find what they believe is a mermaid on a rock outside their city. So they go off there and decapitate it. That's what you do, apparently. Yeah. And then they are so proud of themselves, they preserve it and hang it in the temple. And so you can go see this preserved mermaid if you went to this, to this Tangara. I think they say Tangara. It's probably like a manatee or something that they cut. So it's like this like shriveled manatee.
Couldn't they just cut off like a person's head because like a mermaid is half
they apparently
human, like I would cut the ass off
head,
and that's what I would throw up as a trophy.
They didn't think that far ahead. Apparently, they just like, well, we have this decapitated dugong or whatever,
beluga whale,
exactly. Yeah. And this Greek travel writer went to go see it, and he's like, yeah, it doesn't look like a person really, but I guess I'll take their word for it. There's also like a preserved one in the palace, like the palace basement in Rome, and there's like these storerooms full of weird stuff that people sent them, sent the emperors. And they had like skeletons of giants, for example. They all be like fossils, things like that. And they had a preserved mermaid, supposedly. It's just someone found a centaur, supposedly, in the mountains of Arabia. And so the governor
kept taking the top half, though.
Right.
They kept.
Well, you'll love this story. So the governor captures it, but then it conveniently dies right after he's captured it.
Is it balloons?
Did you?
Yeah.
I hope I didn't do that.
Is it your birthday or something?
I mean,
did Stalt log in and he has producer capabilities? Yeah. Is he in here fucking adding balloons?
Balloons. Yeah, it's festive. I'll tell him. Cool.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, so this thing dies, and the governor does his best. He's like, well, I'll send you what's left of it. And so it's like this like really badly mangled like horse carcass he sends to the emperor.
Oh God.
But they say that because it's cool.
Yeah.
So there are all kinds. My favorite one of all the cryptids in the Greek world is also from India, and it's called the Odontotyrannus, which means literally tyrant tooth. I translated this in one of the books. It's the fanged tyrant, and it's probably just a crocodile, pretty much like an Indian crocodile. But it's supposedly in the mythical version is like 100 feet long, and at one point Alexander's troops are camping by the Ganges or by the Indus River. And one of these things leaps from the water, like eats like 15 men at once, and the whole army attacks it. It's this great story. And there are these, because it became part of the medieval legend of Alexander, there are these stories of this like the illustrations, this like 3-horned thing emerging from the waters and being like set upon by a bunch of guys with spears. It's great stuff.
That's sweet.
That's badass.
Also, if I just died to a regular crocodile, I would really appreciate it if my compatriots turned that crocodile into a mythical beast. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
It was way bigger than just a regular croc.
If I get trampled by a horse, that was not a horse. That was a horseman with a bow. Okay. Yeah. Shot an arrow through my chest and then trampled me.
Yeah, he was thorough, that guy.
Yeah.
I have a great question from Fragger29.
Right.
And he says, this one, you might have something good for this. What's a common misconception people have about Rome or Greece that annoys you to no end?
Oh, okay. Wow. Yeah. Well, the whole gay thing for one, but beyond that, the whole idea that America is Rome, that never stops to annoy me, because America is in so many ways not Rome. I mean, yeah, people always
say that
all the time. At least maybe I guess my, people who comment on my channels, like, whenever I talk about like the decline of the Roman Empire, it's like, oh, that's us. It's America. Yeah, we're going down.
There was a question like that. Like, is there, can he describe the parallels between the current America downfall and the fall of the Roman Empire?
And that's the thing, even though all those things about America's decline are overblown in various ways, the people tend to think
YouTube shorts gonna lie to me.
Yeah, what? Just the idea that any hegemonic imperial power behaves in the same way, it just doesn't work. You know, we're different in almost every conceivable way from the Roman Empire. Just, you know, happened to be, you know, the biggest dog, you know, in a global network of polities. So that one annoys me a lot. I don't know. Ones that kind of just like are based on, you know, kind of a half knowledge of ancient Rome and Greece, and people are really confident about it. Anywhere people just like, you know, people go, well, actually, in my own comments, like, well, you know, you ever think about this? Just, you know, that whole galaxy of people. But yeah, it's the America Rome thing. That's the misconception I think that needs to be, or people just need to think a little harder about.
Gotcha. And the confidence. The confident, stupid questions. That's me. I feel like that was
no, but if it's an honest question, great, absolutely awesome. It's the people who are like, you know, no, you're wrong, asshole. Here's how Rome works. It's like, look, you know, okay, buddy, you have an opinion. It's fine, but
it's my life.
It's about delivery. You know, it's like, yeah. That way.
I got one from Elder Buffalo. That's asking. He said the ancient Greeks use stones as a form of washable toilet paper. Are there any other interesting hygiene inventions they made? Which, by the way, before I don't even know if they used washable stones. That's not an invention. That's just wiping your ass with a rock.
It's just a rock. Yeah, I mean, I guess all stones are washable, right? And,
these are special washable stones.
A non-washable stone. It's very porous. You see. Well, so that in the book, I talk about latrines in the Roman world, and there's a passage that refers to people using broken pottery to scrape themselves clean, which sounds like a bad idea on a couple levels.
Better than Denver Airport.
Yeah, probably. But yeah, I mean, if that happened, and I guess it might have, you know, if you're very careful with your scraping, okay. But you know, I don't know if that's really invented. Is someone's like, you know, suddenly had an accident, it's like, well, there's a broken pot next to me, I guess we'll push this into service. You know, the classic thing is, you know, supposedly the sponge on a stick, you know, that the Romans go in a latrine. There's a bunch of these sponges sitting in vinegar, you know, next to them. Which probably would have stung, I would think, by the way. So you sit down, you do your thing, and then there's like a slot under the seat, and you stick the stick through that slot, go up, and kind of wipe yourself clean with the sponge. And it's been debated whether this actually happened, because we only have a couple passages. But the Romans didn't write about this for probably obvious reasons. Yeah. But it seems like it probably, at least sometimes, was used. There's a slot. Why else do you have a slot there? I mean, so you'd come up with some other way. But there are other solutions. They may have actually had toilet paper, kind of a primitive toilet paper, but we don't really know. Like softened cloth, and maybe that was reusable. That sounds kind of gross.
Yeah.
Even maybe parchment, which would be really chafed, I would think.
It seems expensive. Expensive process for
it does. Or they just did almost like a modern like a lota or something. It's like a pitcher, like a Turkish toilet, and they kind of splash themselves and kind of wash themselves with water. You know, so it's kind of hard. Yeah. So it's kind of hard to interpret some of our evidence, but there's apparently a range of ways people clean themselves that are going to the bathroom. But the washable rock.
What happened to using a big fucking leaf?
Probably, you know, I'm sure that happened. You know, just that you just don't find the leaf, you know, archaeologically. You know, the leaf doesn't survive.
Yeah, that's true. So. There was one guy that wrote about these plants are okay,
just fantastic.
Poison ivy, not so much.
Exactly right. Yeah,
dude, man, it's like the Wild West of ass wiping over there.
Right. It's it's soft, absorbent. This is the best leaf.
Me and my brother were locked out of the house one time, and he took a shit in the backyard, and he wiped his ass with poison ivy, which was hilarious.
It's like a cliche.
Insult to injury.
Damn. That is a pretty cliche, honestly. Yeah.
It's kind of an attractive plant, you know, nice spiky leaves. I can see why he chose it.
It's cool looking.
Yeah,
he's a dumbass. I think I don't think he wiped his ass with it. I think he squatted over poison.
Oh, okay.
That's what it was.
Okay.
Even more coverage that way.
Well, that's
equally dumb. Yeah. But
they
didn't. All they had was for hygiene inventions. They just had this sponge on a stick.
That was the most
broken
apparently a broken pot. Yeah, I mean, again, and maybe they're using a small pot to just kind of splash themselves or something. But
this is the foundations of our civilization, people.
Exactly.
Yeah, they probably
the
just
best we got.
Yeah,
washable rocks.
I mean,
best thing since sliced bread. Washable fucking rock.
It's like the pet rock of antiquity. It's like, well, but this rock.
Yeah. You need to upgrade your rock game. Check this bad boy out.
Yeah.
It's the most rounded rock.
Water, poop comes
shit
right
out. There actually was a kind of a half serious aside. So the Romans lived in a volcanic area. All of their geology is, volcanic. Volcanoes in the last few million years. And so there was pumice that floated on water. And they would use this stuff in their concrete. And so they had like a dome that was very, very heavy. The top part of that dome would be made with this, would seem lighter than air stone. So she did have floating rocks, and they would use them in their construction. Yeah,
it's cool.
But isn't pumice like when it rained, did it just leak through the top of the dome?
It was like mixed into the concrete, so it's still like solid concrete.
Okay.
But it was just in there.
Gotcha.
Maybe making it lighter than just like the big heavy basalt or whatever else you would use.
Yeah, that's awesome. Any of those still surviving today, or?
Oh yeah, like the Pantheon in Rome. That dome is made like that, where it begins with these big heavy chunks of travertine mixed into the concrete at the base, and the top is both thinner and then has this volcanic scoria, it's called, which is just kind of pumice mixed into it. So it's it's very, very light for being this huge masonry chunk.
That's
and
awesome.
it cracked when it was laid, but it hasn't cracked since, which is pretty cool. 19th centuries in.
Damn, yeah, that's actually really awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Modern concrete has all this rebar, the reinforcing steel, and they didn't have any of that. They just laid it down and hoped for the best, and then there it worked.
Does is there like a lot of, I don't know if this is moving outside your purview, but like if we were to make something near a fault line with no rebar in it, eventually it would crack and stuff. Is there just not a lot of earthquake type stuff going on?
I mean, it happened. Rome has earthquakes. It had a couple of pretty serious ones in the Middle Ages, especially, which destroyed a lot of the Roman buildings that were still standing. But the Pantheon was solid enough, apparently, that all of the stress points had already cracked or had not cracked, all that badly, in a way that it was brought down. So it's once it's actually up and is dried, it's pretty stable. It's kind of like it's a rock. It's monolithic, but it's the process of drying. It's kind of hazardous. So that's in the cracks form from the heat inside. And, but yeah, no, it's pretty astonishing. Even more like Hagia Sophia in Constantinople, in Istanbul. That dome has come down like 5 times. The first time that they were really proud of it, they got this beautiful dome with windows in the base, and then like 20 years after it's built, the whole thing falls. So they rebuild it again to make it a little bit, kind of a higher pitch. It's more stable, and chunks of that thing fell at least 3 times. And so if you look up at it now, it's kind of lopsided. But if you built it kind of like halfway, in different sectors.
I guess you could say dome wasn't built in a day.
That's good. Yeah.
All right.
I'll allow that joke.
That was like a Stolt joke.
He does like little puns of that level jokes
Stolt
today. I don't know what you mean.
Stolt was clapping. He was clapping when you said
clapping
that.
like a seal.
Stolt. We don't even know if he likes it, but thanks, man. Thank you so much.
It's just gonna say it's terrible, right? Yeah, it's fucking.
So what was it? The Hagia Sophia? Is that how you say it? What was like the last time the dome was replaced? Because it looks great now. I was actually
they've done a lot of work recently. The Turkish government's put a lot of money into it since it became a mosque again. But in the 14th century, I think about a third of it came down. And actually, because the Byzantine Empire at that point was very poor, it was kind of just open for a while. There's a half-ruined building for decades. And they finally got enough money together to restore it. But I think since then, the Ottomans put a bunch of buttresses up there. So if you look at it closely, you see all these kind of like weird, everything from columns to, these big leaning chunks of masonry up against the dome. So it's pretty well braced, but it's still fragile. Nothing to say. If they got a good shake in Istanbul now, it could still come down.
Jeez.
Yeah.
What a pain to have to redo it again.
Yeah, right.
It's one of those things that you keep
just leave it down. Yeah.
Right, yeah.
How do you feel
a dome
about
expert over there that should get your mother?
Oh, damn. Yeah. That's too soon for me. I hope that was directed towards
Brian.
Yeah. Okay. You gotta show respect to the guest. You gotta show respect to me for at least another couple days.
Brian. Haha, Brian, I got you.
Damn, you got me.
Have you seen like what they're doing to the Cathedral of Notre Dame? Notre Dame? Isn't there a difference between the school pronunciation and then the cathedral?
Yeah, Notre Dame is the Americanization of Notre Dame.
Notre Dame
is the French. Yeah.
Have you seen like their plans on? Since the fire, they like floated up ideas of like, what if we make it ultra modern? Like when they do these restorations, like what do you think they should do? Bring it back to its former glory, or do you think they should? I've seen a castle that's been kind of put together with just minimal effort, where they're like they put like glass panes and stuff, so it's like it's still a ruin, but it's still also structurally sound now, and you can see.
They should make it out of Lego.
Yeah, like that actually would be cool. Like just
the Lego dome.
Yeah,
you get more tourists.
Yeah,
I mean, for something like Notre Dame, which is this national icon, just such a famous building, I think your only choice is to restore it as it was. You get a lot of people angry if you put like a crazy ass futuristic roof on it or something.
And shit.
Right. I think and what they're doing. So I was in Paris this spring, and I was kind of reading all the placards around the construction site. And they're trying to rebuild it with medieval methods too. It's like medieval tools and everything. Like you put on these big oak beams, which is pretty cool. Yeah. I mean, it's take them forever, but So I think in that way, for an icon like that, it's more important to have the building's original shape preserved than to make a statement, a modern statement on top of this iconic building.
Yeah.
Next to it, sure, make a cool visitor center or something, but you have to leave the cathedral as it is.
You should next to it do those. Never mind. There's like 9/11 memorial lights they shoot off. A couple of those over there.
The original.
Yeah,
right.
Just tear down the entire cathedral and just put up some lights.
Wouldn't you rather have a really cool light show? Because everyone really knows.
Put one of the spheres there from Vegas. I'm thinking they should put those everywhere. That thing was sweet.
Yeah, that
sphere
was
in every town,
in every city.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. That looked actually, the Romans would have loved the sphere. I think they would have been all about that stuff.
Absolutely.
Because they're just like America, so they and they're gay.
Exactly. Yes. Two facts.
Yeah. The sphere. It was. I wish we had seen the inside. That's a big miss on the trip.
I've seen a video of the inside, and I feel like it would give me like some sort of like weird motion sickness, maybe some sort of like claustrophobia. I don't know. It's a weird. It looks like a weird environment to be in.
It's huge. You're gonna get claustrophobic because
not
the video where it
claustrophobic,
makes
like,
it look like it's coming down.
All the moving walls and everything. I feel like it would be just unnerving.
Well, then you should watch the movie in it. I've seen the U2 concert videos. They use all this perspective and different things to make it look like the roof is physically moving in, and it's a big rectangle.
Yeah,
scary. It's a sphere, and it looks scary. But the movie, it's just.
I'd rather, that Planet Earth movie you're talking about. Looks fucking dope.
Yeah.
Postcard from Earth or something.
Yeah,
badass.
Oh yeah.
The outside had some good. It was a big emoji for a while, and it did a weird, vague.
It was like an eyeball once.
Yeah, did you see the baby, Brian? It was just a baby in a space helmet.
I think
what the hell is this even an advertisement for? I don't know. It's just like
helmets, baby.
Yeah, helmets. I was thinking,
he ran out of shit to do.
It doesn't make any noise. It'd be awesome if it was so loud you could hear it from everywhere in Las Vegas. It's just deafening. And it could,
like a baby,
it's visually overstimulating. No, anything on the screen they have. Any commercial, they're doing the UFC fight. If you could hear it, even in your room, like. This fight's gonna be crazy.
Every fucking like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Go crazy.
From your airplane, you can hear it because you can see it. If you can see it, you should be able to hear it. Those are my rules.
I was so pissed on the way in. It was nighttime, and some guy, like half the people were asleep on this plane, and this guy in the back just goes, "Look, everyone, the sphere!" And I went to like look out the window, and it was on the other side, and so you heard half the plane go, "Ah," and then the other half was like, "Ah, look at that!" They were looking out the window. It sucked. I looked out my side; it was just complete and utter darkness and desert out there.
Oh, look, it's the rest of Nevada.
Yeah. Oh my god.
Yeah. I got a question here from Ronnie. I don't know if you'll know this one. What caused the disappearance of the 9th Legion Hispania?
Oh, one of these famous lost legions. I think, and again, I'm not an expert on the legions. This is the one that was based in Britain, I think, for a long time, and it's one of these debates whether it was destroyed in a revolt or just like a reorganization. So legions did vanish sometimes, and occasionally they were just destroyed. Like there was one that may have vanished in the Jewish rebellion. So there's so many people were killed. They just put the survivors in different legions. Or like the 3 legions killed in Germany at the Teutoburg Forest. They just didn't reincorporate those legions. But sometimes they just kind of did like a bureaucratic
We're going to have to go
thing.
back to that one because there was a question about Teutoburg.
Oh,
Forest.
Teutoburg,
yeah.
But often it was like a bureaucratic thing. They would rename a legion. They could merge it with a different legion. So I have no insight on that, unfortunately.
I thought it was more like they were like, peace, we're leaving.
Yeah, it's like, this is pretty cool, but we're like just kind of become one with the forest now.
Yeah,
we're
just if we keep marching, they're not gonna fucking find
us.
We're
forming a commune over here. Yeah.
Cool. So if like they got decimated in like some battle or whatever, they would take the survivors and just redistribute.
Yeah, I mean, so actually, we're exactly right. So if the legion was almost wiped out, they would re-brigade the men. It was actually decimation, like the punishment decimation, where they kill every 10th man. There's one slightly smaller, really demoralized legion.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's like an actual historical.
It's actually
thing
a thing.
That happened. I use the term decimated as in like they just got annihilated, like fucked up. But there is literally a punishment called
a Roman
decimated.
thing. Yeah.
That's a pretty harsh punishment, by the way.
Really, and honestly, it's kind of a risky thing for a general because you don't improve morale by killing 1/10 of your men.
Yeah, at random too. Like, would you select the ones you don't like, or would you?
No, you line up and count by 10, and then every 10th guy gets it.
Hey man, you want to trade spots?
Exactly. Can you see them? It's like, oh shit! Like
119, 120.
Oh shit! You're like eeny, meeny, miny. Yeah, right.
I got a piece.
Yeah, right. Hey, Fabius, what's over there? And they kind of like shuffle it. Yeah, right.
But what was that Teutoburg Forest thing?
Oh yeah, so in 9 AD, under Varus, who was this kind of political general who'd been put in charge of the new province of Germany, which incorporated about half of what's now modern Germany. There's Arminius, this German chieftain who had worked for the Romans. He had been part of the Roman army. He knew Latin and was thought to be an ally of the Romans. Decided that he wanted to expel the Romans from Germany. Probably as a power play, probably as kind of expelling them, invaders from his homeland. And so Varus, who is not a very good general, and his 3 legions are marching through this kind of marshy area, and they're ambushed by all these German tribesmen in the woods, in the woods and swamps, and are annihilated almost to a man. 3 legions gone. The survivors are rounded up and sacrificed to the German gods so that they find the site 5 years later, and there's all these like altars of skulls all around them and stuff, all very metal. But so this is a huge disaster. So it pretty much ends Rome's eastward push. The Romans had apparently wanted to conquer all of what's now Germany and much of what's now Eastern Europe. So it's a shorter defensive line to go to the Elbe, for example, and then over like into the Balkans. But this effectively ends Rome's ambitions in that direction. Like, okay, screw this. We just lost 3 legions. We're going to withdraw to the Rhine. And they stay there for the rest of Roman history, the rest of Western Roman history. And so Augustus, this is really a huge setback for him, for his plans of the empire. He apparently runs around the palace at night, bashing his head against a wall and saying, Varus, where are my legions? He's pretty old. He wasn't, vigorously bashing his head, but still.
Yeah.
So it's one of the most famous disasters in Roman history, militarily, because people always say what if Rome had conquered Germany, had conquered where the barbarians came from later. And those guys were Romans from the get-go. Then does the empire ever fall? Does the empire look very different? It's one of these turning points.
Like, how big of a fuck up is that? Like 3 Roman legions, is that like a substantial part of their military, or
it's about it's about 1/10 of their whole army, which doesn't sound like a lot, but the legions are right. Yeah. More efficient. But the Romans, these are all professionals, the legionaries. They're expensive to train. They're hard to replace, and these guys are all located on the edges of the empire. So you can't really just move a legion from one to the other. So you create a new gap in the line.
Yeah.
So the system's designed to deal with small scale losses, but not with 3 whole legions being punched out at once.
From one area too.
From one area too. So it's a big strategic problem, and they probably could have, actually they did. They mounted a few expeditions in the same area in following years, and they killed a lot of people. They recovered the eagles eventually that were lost, the legionary standards. They, punished the tribes who were involved. But for whatever reason, they never tried to reconquer Germany. And so whether it's just kind of a permanent, a legion on the empire, I don't know. Yeah. But it was a big deal.
Like same thing with like, the British Isles. Why'd they never go up into Scotland? Was it just boring up there?
They did. I mean, well, yes. Boring, cold. There's not much up there really worth taking. The only reason to take it is so people don't raid you from up there. And they did push into Scotland a few times. Actually, they almost conquered the whole island at one point under the Emperor Domitian. So this really ambitious governor called Agricola conquers into the Highlands, actually, almost to the very tip of Scotland. And he wins this big battle in a place called Mount Scraupius. But he's withdrawn. The emperor calls him back to Rome. And his biographer, the historian Tacitus, thinks it's because the emperor is jealous that he's doing too well up there. But he probably just needed it in Germany. There's a big incursion over there, and his men are needed to fill in that gap. Yeah. So the empire is really good at conquering people, but it has fewer reserves than you might think. So a problem in one part of the empire creates problems throughout the empire. They got to replace, they got to fill in those reserves somehow, and it's hard to recruit good men quickly. Marcus Aurelius, when there's a huge war in what's now sort of the Czech Republic and part of the Balkans, he is desperate. So he recruits gladiators into the army. He frees slaves and recruits them into the army. And this is, for the Romans, unthinkable that men of this station could become, legionaries. But, he's reduced to that when there's a bunch of losses from a series of defeats in battle.
Was military service? Was it like a prestigious thing, or was it kind of like a lowly
respected?
Yeah, was it a respected position to be in the military?
To be a member of the legions was. Yeah. I mean, it wasn't like, they weren't all rich. They were paid about as well as like a good craftsman, pretty much. But it was a good living if you were on the edge of the empire, especially. And great perks, great retirement benefits. You're given a huge discharge bonus or land. You kind of set yourself up for the rest of your life.
Land?
Well, kind of and/or. Either you get like a bunch of money, which you can use to buy land if you want. Mm-hmm. Or if you're in a newly kind of colonized area, an area where they want to put more people, they'll give you a plot of land. And they'll settle you in a new veterans colony, which is you and all your regiment buddies. You'll become the first colonists of this new town on the edge of the empire.
That sounds like a cool deal. Yeah,
it was a great deal, unless you got raided by Raiders. Exactly right. But you're soldiers, right? You know how to deal with these things.
Yeah,
that'd be a good game or movie out there.
Just
veteran colony, homeless veteran colony. A bunch of raiders come down.
Yeah, right.
Living on your land.
What kind of did they have any social services or anything? Did they have any sort of safety net? They have welfare.
Oh.
They have
anything like that. The Romans are very small government people in the sense that they'll take your taxes and in return they don't kill you. Well, actually, what they'll do is they will protect you in a basic level. They'll pay the legions with that, keep the barbarians out, at least in theory. They'll also police the roads, keep the bandits away. So they'll do that much for you. But if there's any social net, it's on the city level. Cities often have things like free schools. They'll have foundations for poor orphans, for example. And some emperors do this too. Like Trajan and Marcus Aurelius also have poor orphans. They'll have these foundations, the orphanages, pretty much, that will raise these kids. But for the most part, for the old especially, there's really not much provision to help them. The family is supposed to do whatever it can, and the city. The local city sometimes has things to help them, but not often. And the empire just sort of says, okay, I'll take your money, city, I'll pay my troops, and hope everything else works itself out.
Huh. Interesting. Yeah. I was thinking they didn't have I could have swore I've heard that they had free bread, maybe free
free
kitchen
bread.
Yeah.
Here and there, free bread. That's what you're doing.
I mean, in Rome, yes, there was the grain dole. Not everyone in Rome got it. About a third of the population of Rome was eligible. You had to be a Roman citizen, and it wasn't the poorest people actually. It was the kind of people who were living in Rome, were citizens, and kind of were of a certain status. And you kind of
people that didn't need it basically are the people that got it.
And it wouldn't be enough to feed a whole family. It was enough. So you get your grain once a month. You go to this warehouse. You get a big sack of grain, pretty much, and then you had to either make bread at home or go to a baker. Usually they would go to bakers who would do it for them. Later on, they actually would give out bread, straight up bread, along with like pork and like oil and stuff. It became much more streamlined.
Joke there somewhere about the needy,
yeah,
the needy,
right,
I guess.
Exactly, yeah.
Something awesome joke, Stalt. Maybe workshop that, put that in, re-edit that.
Yeah, but yeah, so it is a thing, and other cities, Constantinople does the same thing. They have a free, a grain dole. A few other cities have kind of these smaller versions of the same sort of arrangement, but it's mostly Rome. It's a very expensive thing to do. I mean, Rome has 1 million people. And the grain's coming from as far away as Egypt, all over North Africa. So it's a huge business getting the grain to the city, let alone, distributing it and grinding it and making the bread.
Huh. I got like the first half of a great question, and the second half is just something you're probably not gonna like. But this Athedos guy asked like if it would behoove you request from Dr. Garrett Ryan to explain the transition from faith from Roman Greek gods to Christianity and when that happened. And then he follows it up, which was, I think, a very good question.
Yeah,
and then he goes, were they as gay as everybody says they were? Of course he had to tag that on to the end.
Gay America or what?
Yeah, right, gay. Yeah. I feel like if I made, a video just titled Rome equals gay America, it would get 5 million views in the first day.
Oh, yeah.
That's it.
Hell yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, the rise of Christianity is obviously a very long process, and there's all kinds of causes. I think most people realize how few Christians there were before about the 4th century. It was maybe 5% at the very most when 10% maybe at the very most when Constantine becomes Christian. It's very much a minority religion when it becomes the official or at least a protected religion of the empire. But it very quickly kind of absorbs almost everyone else. There's all kinds of reasons. It's much better organized than paganism is not one thing. Every city has its own set of cults, its own version of the gods. Christianity is, an all-encompassing, or can be before there's heresies, an all-encompassing network, both organizationally and on the local level, where the bishop kind of runs things. Again, it offers things that most pagan cults did. It offers a promise of salvation, it offers, and we talk about the social security net. The church does take care of old people and of orphans and of the young, unlike almost all, pagan cities or pagan governments. And so there's again, the church offers a lot of practical advantages, has these, this powerful theological message, and it's well organized. And so when Constantine becomes a Christian, it's kind of poised to take over the empire and does pretty rapidly. There are still pagans hanging around for a long time, for many centuries after this. But by, let's say, the year probably 400, there are probably more Christians than not in the Roman Empire. And a century after that, there's almost no pagans left. There's a few that are kind of like in weird places that at one point they catch a governor red-handed, like offering sacrifice to Zeus in like the year like 570, and it's like, oh no, it's not me, man. And he's like in front of a burning altar with like a dead goat, which must have been a good look. But and there's one city, the city of Carrhae in what's now Syria, or actually that's at the border of Turkey, that remains pagan until the Middle Ages. They just kind of cling to it, despite being in the middle of, by that time, an Islamic empire, until I think eventually they're raided by a bunch of Bedouin, and that's the end of it. But yeah, so it hangs on for a long time, and it's a slower transition than you would think, but it is astonishing that this world of little local cults converts almost wholesale to this one religion.
And they lost there's just so many cool little intricate, weird little details to being polytheistic.
Yeah,
you can have.
We just don't know.
You can just kind of pick your own thing, whatever you like. But Christianity is very bureaucratic, and it's got the one thing, and it's.
Yeah, they do have a nice cast of saints, I would say. And some of the saints
the saints,
fun.
I guess.
Yeah, not as exciting.
Yeah, it's not nearly as cool.
Oh, this guy drove the snakes out of Ireland or whatever.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
Well, this guy killed like a hydra, so
it's true.
This guy put a fucking dog hat on and went and ruled over Egypt
and became Anubis or whatever.
Yeah, like I don't know, polytheistic stuff is way cooler. But if it feeds the poor and the old or whatever, I guess that's a good trade-off.
Cool. Wendigo really try to make him sound badass, but it just wasn't the. This guy loves Jesus. The little finger goes on the wall or whatever. All these myths are like, God, this sucks. I want Percy Jackson level myths, dude.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, Wendigo he was a guest that we had on. He's like a Bible scholar.
Oh,
there
wow.
were some pretty cool yarns he told about the Bible.
Oh yeah, well there's actually there are a couple dog-headed saints. Again, they kind of get edited out. Like Saint Christopher actually, in his original version is has a dog head.
He's got dog brain.
He's just
dog brain.
Well, so there's supposedly this race of dog-headed people who live like south of what's now Egypt, and a few of them in these kind of wacky stories become Christians, and a couple become saints. And actually, one saint, I think Saint Mercurius is an Egyptian, has like a bodyguard of these dog-headed dudes, which is pretty great.
That's pretty badass. He's got his pack with him.
Exactly right. Yeah, sick 'em.
Are these dog-headed guys? Are they like intellectually like human, or are they kind of like dog smart?
They're like human smart, but they just like bark though. I don't think they can't really talk. I don't think. But that guy
barks good. Make him a saint. That's awesome.
And maybe he's a more articulate dog. Yeah, I don't know how that all works.
I got a great question from Eric the Watkins. That sounds like that might be his name's Eric Watkins. So I think I just doxed that guy. What sort of street foods / fast foods were common in Rome? Mm-hmm. What is the Roman equivalent to like a bloomin' onion or a Big Mac?
Bloomin' onion.
Had bloomin' onions.
They did, yeah. They fry stuff.
Did they? That's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, so they had things like roast chickpeas, for example. We know that was a big street food. They put them like paper cones. You munch away on them. There are these taverns, pretty much all over the city, because most people don't cook it. Most people don't have kitchens in there. They live in apartments in Rome. And they don't have any space for a kitchen. And it's also dangerous to build a fire in this like partly wooden building.
So everybody ate out every day?
All the time, yeah. They go out to eat.
Me at your mom's house.
Not you. That was directed towards Brian, of course.
And so we have like in Pompeii, just came out. In Pompeii, we have these like examples of these, hot counters, they call them, like thermopylae or whatever, thermopolitan. Anyway, somewhere like that. And they have... we think things like hot chickpeas. You get like a bit of roasted meat there, hot bread. So just like quick meals. They didn't have like a hamburger per se, but you probably get a sandwich or what amount to a sandwich pretty easily. There are markets all over the place. Vegetables where probably people were selling cooked vegetables, prepared food alongside the raw stuff.
When did they
glizzies?
When they get noodles?
No, so people ask like the Romans have spaghetti because they didn't have tomatoes yet. That's a New World thing.
Yeah, that's a New World thing. But they had to have Alfredo, right?
Right, exactly right. I think so. I'm not an expert on like Roman cuisine, but like there's things that look kind of noodle-like in a couple of Roman recipes. They're like dough cut into strips. I don't know if it had the consistency. Probably wouldn't taste too much like a noodle, but it would have looked a little noodly. I can't think of the name. Yeah, probably dumplings. They definitely had.
They're Southerners.
Exactly right. Yeah. Yeah, right.
Oh, chicken and dumplings. Oh, God.
Chicken and dumplings. Yeah.
Big biscuits, sweet tea.
Now that's the Mediterranean diet I can get behind. Biscuits and gravy.
Yeah.
All the good fixins.
Right.
They have collard greens in Rome. That would be badass.
That would be fun.
Yeah. Actually, like, that actually raises a good question about like average food. Like, what's like just a normal ass day for like a normal person? Someone with not just like a lot of income.
Right.
Like, did they have like a middle class?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, so our idea of middle class is very much post-industrial revolution. Where we have this large class that works in a big a capitalist economy. They had a pretty good sized class of people who worked in the trades, I would say, and often in Rome itself, there's a lot of freedmen. Former slaves who are highly trained, all of these skills that allow them to be often quite successful. So there is a pretty good size, what we would call middle class in Rome itself, at least, and many cities had, this stratum of moderately prosperous people. The most numerous are still the poor, of course, and there's still a tiny elite that controls most of the wealth. And that's most pre-modern societies, but there is a middle class. And for them, food is pretty simple. Most of what they're eating, bread is the staple. Bread's probably 7/10 of their calories for most people, huge amount. And so, you begin your day with bread. Probably breakfast is often very small. You have like, let's say a little bread with like olive oil dipped on it or something. And then like a little cup either of water or of watered wine. Lunch also often very simple. we have you might have a little bit of fruit, for example. You go to one of these hot counters, get your chickpeas, or a little bit of roasted meat.
Real carb heavy.
Real carb heavy for the poor, because bread is cheap. Rome, pork is the cheapest meat because pigs can just run wild. You can have pigs anywhere. Beef is really expensive because cows don't live really easily in Egypt. In Italy, they're so big, right? Exactly, it comes back to that. Meat, and so only the rich are eating meat a ton, except for some pork. Pork's more common, but dinner is the blowout meal for the rich. And even for the and even for the
and eat a pork
counter, I go 1, 2 in Brian's house. Okay, sorry, go on.
No, by any means. And so for they talk about from the what is it, from the eggs to the nuts, it's the same, from the beginning to the end. The saying, I know it's good. I know.
He's gonna do it.
I'm about to perf out.
There's that's kind of this saying for from the beginning to the end of a meal in the Roman world. And so they have things like you might have a 1 or 2 or 3 course meal for dinner if you're moderately prosperous, and then things like some eggs, a little bit of let's say roasted meat, some vegetables on the side, and have a dessert of fruit or something. And so again, it's simple food for the most part, with bread being far and away the biggest staple, and wine being the drink almost exclusively in some cases. They drink water too, of course, but often heavily watered wine as people are drinking. Probably pretty vinegary, nasty tasting wine, but still wine.
Gotcha. Mm-hmm. How much free time did the average person have? They work. Mm-hmm. I'm assuming they didn't have a 5-day work week,
right? A punch in.
Yeah.
I mean, of course, it varied so much of what you did. If certain kinds of tradesmen are working a lot, but in general, it seems the Romans work a lot harder in the morning than in the afternoon. They're very much morning people, and so a lot of people, it seems, work pretty hard from dawn until about noon, and then they take a little siesta, go off to the baths, kind of hang out with their friends. So probably for again this we're talking about this middle class. For most of them, working hours probably are comparable or somewhat even shorter in some cases, a modern 40-day work week, but it's more spread out. It's maybe all 7 days, because the 7-day week doesn't exist yet, or it does, but it's kind of an astrological thing. But so they're working, besides festivals, which are pretty numerous in Rome, and we don't know how many of them are taken off, or federal holidays or whatever. So they're working, many days, but probably only about, let's say, through the early afternoon on most days, and they're going off to the baths or doing something else social. So it seems like if you want to get things done in Rome, you do it in the morning, and afternoon and evening are kind of more free time.
They have taverns and stuff. They have
those same tabernae they give the fast food places are often places people go to drink too. And there's some great frescoes in Pompeii which actually show people hanging out on these wooden tables and drinking. There's one that shows a bar fight, and the owner kicking people out. He's take it outside, you drunks. So yeah, it seems like that part of it would have seemed kind of familiar in some cases. That there was these kind of neighboring watering holes, neighborhood watering holes people would go to in the evenings anyway.
Huh. Sounds lovely.
Yeah, actually, it doesn't sound that bad.
Community.
Although they didn't have, once again, air conditioning. I think that is.
Yes. So even now in Italy, to be honest, now no one is AC. It's still pretty miserable in summer.
Yeah.
Still hanging to the glory days.
I guess.
Damn.
The last remnant of our empire.
Right. Sweating our asses off from May to September.
And we use a big sponge to wipe our ass still.
Yeah.
Exactly. This made us great once. It'll make us great again.
Yes.
We'll get ours.
Yeah. Wait until they discover the washable stone. That will
honestly does sound pretty good.
I would rather use a stone than a fucking sponge on a stick that's been in vinegar, to be honest.
I mean, can you imagine how many parasites? So they found some latrines in Austria and did some analysis of the feces. They found fossilized feces basically, and it was riddled with parasites. It's every intestinal worm you can imagine was just all up in their business. Yeah, fun stuff.
Yeah. You said that they drank wine and stuff, but they also drank a lot of water. Do you think I know those aqueducts were then piped into lead pipes? Mm-hmm. How'd they not get lead poisoning from?
So this is another common question is so did lead poisoning make them all go insane? That's what happened to the empire. And there's 2 reasons why this didn't happen. First is that the water's flowing quickly through the pipes. It's not sitting in the pipes. Mm-hmm. It's not really absorbing a lot of lead. Other reason is that Rome is hard water with a lot of dissolved calcium, so it coats the pipes and creates kind of like a natural insulation. Okay. Exactly. So again, they have to chip them out of the aqueducts. There's these slaves, they have 500 slaves whose only job is to clean the aqueducts, and they go in there with like chisels and stuff, and chip it all out and dump it, outside like the air vents of the aqueducts.
Oh, they just close up over time?
Yeah, so it would build up. And so if it didn't clean it out, a combination of this like limestone buildup and just debris coming in, because it's not a very closed system. They're coming out of springs typically. Yeah. But, debris falls in various ways. You got to keep scouring them clean to keep them from getting clogged up. But yeah, it's a fascinating system.
I heard when tomatoes were introduced into Europe, they thought that they were like poisonous because they had a lot of like lead in their plates, and like the acidity of the tomatoes would cause, I guess it would break down the lead or whatever, and so when they would eat it, it would cause lead poisoning. People kept getting sick. But I thought that was weird that I just assumed they would probably get fucking lead poisoning from all those lead pipes over there.
I mean, they did get lead poisoning, but for different reasons. They would use like lead in their cosmetics, like women, that was a big thing. And some people just kind of like the taste of lead. They would have like lead, right? It's like exactly like lead cups, and like just like, and they would use lead cauldrons to like boil their wine down to this like sweet syrupy stuff. And of course, boiling things in lead is a good way to get lead infused in whatever you're making. And so that stuff was just absolutely riddled with lead. But as far as we can tell, most of them anyway, weren't drinking enough of this stuff or having enough of this exposure to actually go insane. It didn't help them for sure, but it didn't bring the empire to its knees or anything.
Yeah. What about like this guy's asking about pharmaceuticals? He says his name's Rai Rai. He says ask him about that lost abortion plant that the Romans thought was the god's gift. They had like some sort of like shrub or something they ate.
Yes, Silphium. Silphium grew in what's now Libya, around Cyrene. And it was like the miracle plant because it was.
Damn, they must have imported that thing.
Well, they did. They imported it so much they wiped it to extinction. That they hunted it down the last one, and now there's no Silphium left. But supposedly it was both an aphrodisiac and a birth control drug, and so you could have fantastic,
rid of it all.
Fantastic sex, and then have no consequences.
I think just the fact that you can have sex with a woman without worrying about knocking them up was the aphrodisiac. I don't think it was.
Probably was.
Yeah, I think it was like, oh damn, you're chewing on Silphium. I'm rock hard. I am absolutely rock hard.
And it's mostly tasted great too. You'd a cook meat in it, and it made everything. It made everything better. And the city Cyrene, it was their main export. They put the plant on their coins. So there's like big like stalks. They put the seeds, it's kind of like hearts actually, on their plant, on their coins too. And so Silphium was for centuries their biggest export, and then apparently because of either climate changes or just probably over harvesting, they wipe this stuff out, and Nero gets the last stalk, according to one story.
No, really?
Yeah, there's other stories that it might still exist in some like valley in Libya. I'd watch that documentary, The Search for Silphium, but
I want to be horny.
Yeah, right. But as far as we know, it's all gone.
That's pretty awesome. Vex was just telling me about a woolly mammoth that they've put it in like I guess like an elephant embryo, and they're growing like a woolly mammoth, so they're gonna bring it back. I wonder if they could find like like a old remnant of Silphium. What's it called?
Put it in an elephant embryo.
Yeah, exactly.
Do some sort of fucking test tube. Plant gene stuff. I don't know. I'm not a scientist. Bring the fucking plant back. There has to be something they could do.
If you found a seed, you probably could, to be honest. But I don't know if they've even found. Again, it's Libya. It's not really in a state to do much, archaeology right now. But
that's true. Yeah.
But whenever that's more stable, who knows? Maybe.
God. Ever since that plant's been grown, that place has been in utter turmoil.
It's been a steep downhill decline.
Yeah. Have you toured that place any?
Libya? No, I wanted to, but by the time I was in a position to, the 2011 had happened, and the country fell into the current civil war. So hopefully someday, for their sake, of course, mostly. But I'd love to visit when it's more stable.
Yeah, it sucks that like a lot of what can be roughly considered the birth of civilization is oftentimes in some sort of conflict. Not very peaceful times over there. But,
no.
Yeah. What's like so you've just been going recently, like up in Bulgaria and stuff. Have you toured most of the Middle East and much of the Mediterranean?
A large part of it. When I was in grad school, still, my dissertation was my thesis was all about Roman architecture and what's now Turkey. And so I could claim on that basis that I was finding parallels to that all over the Roman world, and I used that to get little bits of money to travel all over the Mediterranean when I was in my summers when I was still a student. So, yeah, I've seen almost all of the countries that have Roman ruins in them, but I didn't get to go to Syria before the Civil War began, or Lebanon. Those are two that have been off limits.
Is there any cool stuff floating around in there that you're like, I gotta see that at some point?
Oh, Syria has so much. I actually, when I was in grad school, I was going to specialize in the architecture of Syria. I was going to choose that as my dissertation topic, but then
good thing you
couldn't have access. Yeah, it would have been really hard to write. There's a ton there, and in Lebanon too, but actually all over the Near East. Because often, in Western Europe, there was less there to start with, but most of what was there was built over in the Middle Ages. There's cities that are built on top of all this stuff. But until about the 20th century, many parts of the Near East were less populous then than they had been in the ancient world. So places that hadn't been settled since, the year 600 or the year 700. It was just left, out in the desert, wherever it might have been. And those are, of course, the best preserved sites and the ones that, make our archaeologists' hearts beat a little faster, things like that.
Yeah.
But someday, hopefully.
Do you think they? I just pulled up Google Maps right now, and I'm looking at Syria because I'm dumb as shit, and I'm like, I just want to see make sure I know where that is. And now I'm looking at the Mediterranean. Did they ever make it out to the Atlantic Ocean? And then did anybody ever go like, what if we just go on a straight line west? Because they knew it was a round world. Right?
Yeah, they didn't know that, and so and actually they assumed there were other continents, or there was just more land. But yeah, so the Atlantic kind of terrified the Greeks and Romans. It has tides, unlike the Mediterranean. It has huge storms, big waves. But the Romans did, of course, Britain is a province. They cross over from Gaul all the time. And they probably at least investigate Ireland. There are a few explorers who go up into the North Sea, the coast of Scandinavia, it seems. But if anybody tried it, they never came back. Let's put it that way. We have no record of, someone who just kind of kept sailing west. There was no, again, there's not like a Columbus, his whole thing was, I'm going to bring back Indian spices.
Yeah.
There's an economic motive for, in that case, the King of Spain to say, okay, I'm going to give you money and, go ahead, do your thing. As far as they knew, there was no economic reason to do this. So the emperors aren't sponsoring this stuff. And, there were a few apparently Greek scholars who explored this for the sheer hell of it, to learn more about the world, which is fascinating. But one of these guys went up to like Northern Europe, but Pythias. But we don't really know of anybody who went just straight west beyond Hibernia, Ireland. Maybe it happened, but like I said, if they did, they never came back.
Hibernia? That was the name of Ireland?
Yeah. Winterland. Winterland.
Way cooler than Ireland. Hibernia.
Yeah.
What a cool ass name. Did they ever, they just visit, or they never conquered it, did they?
No, it's kind of, there definitely were merchants from Roman Britain who landed there. And there's some evidence that might have been like a landing of like a small troop of soldiers. The evidence is disputed for this, but never more than that. They thought about it. That guy Agricola who conquered most of Scotland says like, hey, Ireland's right there. Guys, 1 legion tops to take care of this place. He actually said this.
Yeah.
And you're like, but why? There's nothing really there. The climate's terrible. They actually thought that the grass was so rich it caused cows to explode, which is kind of fun. It's like a cattle bloat, I guess, is a thing.
Yeah.
But anyways, they never landed there in force, and they're like, okay, we had enough this way. We'll just kind of focus on places that have non-exploding cows and better climate.
Have you seen those videos of like when cows they do start bloating up and they just stab them with like this big valve, and then it just it makes them like fart out the side. Yeah.
That shouldn't work, right? It's like, okay, but
I don't know. It seems like it's one of those things that's like
so much larger than you'd expect.
Yeah.
It seems insanely painful, but the cows like they jolt and then they're like, like you
this is the good shit.
Yeah, they're relaxed.
Exactly.
Oh,
yeah, it's like, man, bring it on, man.
It's like just
imagine you're
air out of it. When you feel sick and you go in the toilet and you're like, I've got to shit, but you don't actually have to shit. You're just farting. You're just like steaming up the room. That's got to feel like 1,000 times better. Yeah, that cow gets its whole fucking gas tank.
Imagine if you can inject a needle in you and you'd fart like your whole bowel out and it'd feel great. That's what they're getting. That's what they're getting.
I would do it if I had cow thick skin, but on my soft little belly, that would probably hurt pretty bad.
I'm thinking like the equivalent. Yeah, like you're getting
like a little and it just stunk up a room. That'd be awesome.
You know, dudes with like the colostomy bags. Apparently, the colostomy bags, they get like, you know, your farts also go into those things, so they end up like bloating up real big. Bag. And so every once in a while you do need to just like open it and let some fucking stink out.
You can elevator.
And I went to the bathroom one time. A guy just walked in there, stood by the urinal, pulled his out, and just went and then poked it back in his pocket. And I was like, dude, you just fucked up this entire bathroom. This bathroom is unusable now. I honestly ran out. I cut off my piss midstream and then just left. It was the grossest thing in the world.
You get to control any room you want in the fucking
I know,
world.
that's such an awesome superpower. And what's cool is I knew another person that had a colostomy bag, and they were like, it's great because you don't have, your asshole's not dirty anymore. You know, you wash that thing once a day, it's clean.
Washable rock and you're fine.
Yeah, it's true.
But once they got it was like a temporary surgery where they had a colostomy bag for just a little bit until they got something repaired. And then once they got it repaired, they were like, dude, wiping your asshole actually gives you like asshole calluses. And so they had a colostomy bag for like 6 months. And they were like, I took a shit and wiped my ass one time and it hurts. It hurts so bad because you have to recallus your asshole, you know. But this is just the highbrow stuff that we invited you on to talk about.
It occurs to me that a sponge on a stick would be probably. So they use the Mediterranean sea sponge, we think, which is a very,
very soft,
a lot of give, very absorbent. You know, probably, you don't need a callus for that kind of thing.
But, why wouldn't they just have their? I mean, they're right there in the Mediterranean, right? Like, those things are everywhere. I would have my own sponge on a stick, I think.
I mean, I guess we really know. You probably give it like your slave or something, your tenant, your sponge stick carrier or something. But
if I was to get a slave, the first thing I would get is the sponge stick carrying.
Guy.
The
sponge guy specialized in it.
Yeah. What would be like your go-to if you were a Roman citizen? You were to get some slaves.
You only get one slave.
Just the one guy.
Yeah.
I mean, what's interesting about these rich households is that there's often hundreds and hundreds of slaves living there who are hyper specialized. It's like a woman will have someone who does just her hair. A guy will have a toga slave. Actually, I probably would have this guy because a toga is really, really hard to fold properly. You know, it's huge. A toga is a giant blanket.
You would toga up?
I would toga. You have to toga up. If you're a Roman citizen, you got to toga up periodically. If you want to appear in public,
I would get a slave that knows how to make some fucking pants.
That's the first thing
you'd have problems because pants were illegal in Rome for quite some time.
Even Jankos with a
Wait,
chain.
what the hell is up with it, dude? There was another guy that asked this question. I forgot to clip it, but like, he's like, why the fuck did they just wear sandals? They had like metal greaves. They had armor. They had cloaks. They had everything. They could make some goddamn boots. Why the hell they just wear sandals forever and always?
I mean, if you're a soldier, it kind of makes sense that sandals kind of ventilate better, like these big, thick, hobnailed sandals, and you're marching around and mud gets in them. That, I guess, kind of makes sense. No trench foot. Yeah. No trench foot, right? Yeah. But like in places like Britain, for example, where it gets really cold in the winter, and you just have these sandals. They have these thick wool socks they wear, which makes it
toe socks.
Fairly warm. Yeah. But yeah, it's weird there aren't more. I mean, they had closed-toed shoes. They existed, but it definitely was much more common to have sandals. I don't know. It just kind of inertia, fashion, beauty is pain, right?
So why were pants illegal?
So this is in the late antique period, when pants are German, they're barbarian.
Big toga.
And right at this point,
clothing advancements, barbaric. Yeah, this is strange.
So pants kind of come in piecemeal. They come from the army first, as they recruit barbarians or people they think is barbarians to be auxiliaries, these kind of the light armored troops who go alongside the legions. Yeah. And the guys who are cavalry often wear pants because wearing a tunic on a horse is just it's not great. It's not very comfortable.
Yeah, you show off your thighs too much.
That too, right?
Yeah, hikes
up.
up.
Where's the intimidation in that?
Yeah.
And so, from these guys, these barbarian or Romanized horsemen, it spreads throughout the army. So soldiers begin to wear pants more and more often. And it's thought that this law is meant to limit the influence of soldiers, or at least of barbarian auxiliaries, their public appearances in Rome. So, okay, if you're going to come to Rome and you're a soldier or you're a barbarian, at least try to look the part. And, I don't know if anyone who was prosecuted under the pants law, it was like, so I think then the penalty was banishment. They kick you out of the city or something.
Jesus Christ!
But
with other pant-wearing freaks.
Exactly. Go off
Savage.
with your kind.
Just pants seem so complicated to make. It's funny that they're like, get that savage shit out of here. I'm wearing a sheet.
Exactly.
A sheet that requires a slave to put it on me.
Right.
Yeah, it's so
if
complicated.
you relax your left arm, the whole thing falls apart. You have to hold your left arm like that, kinked up the entire time.
Really?
Jesus Christ!
It's an incredibly inconvenient garment.
Yeah. Is there any alternatives? Could you? I guess a tunic.
Like Crocs.
Yeah. Were there any Crocs?
I mean, there's some.
I felt banishment the other day because I wore Crocs and they turned me down. I wasn't allowed in. It's fucked up.
I mean, so everyday wear, if you're not going to court or something, you're not doing something important, you wear a tunic, which is much simpler. It is pretty much the bed sheet with a hole in it and armholes. You just gotta drape that over yourself. And you have a belt that holds it together. And it's sort of a fashion statement how loose your belt is. Julius Caesar was known as a loose-belted man in his youth because he was kind of lived wild, and I don't know.
It's like not tying your tie all the way.
Exactly, right? Yeah. It's like, I'm wearing a tie, but I'm gonna take it seriously. That's kind of his thing. So there are different ways to get around the toga, but if you're important and you're appearing publicly, you kind of have to wear it.
Damn, it sucks.
Yeah.
I don't think
the author of that Lest Darkness Falls is a hack, because the character, like, the first thing he does is go to a guy and like, here, like, make me, these are schematics. Like, I need burlap pants so I can have pockets, and I need shoes. Like, this all sucks. I hate wearing a toga.
Oh yeah,
he would have been banished in a heartbeat.
The guy was gone. Yeah. Actually, the whole pocket thing is kind of fun. So they had like wallets they wear on their neck, like kind of like a or like a kind of like a glorified fanny pack. But often the toga is folded in a way they create this long like fold. It's called a sinus, as we get our from, a sinus, and they would just like dump stuff in this fold in their toga. It's like a big deep pocket, including leftovers after a dinner, which must have gotten kind of messy. And just like funnel stuff down into there. Yeah.
What, like up their sleeve? Like
essentially, or like down their
chicken.
sleeve, literally. So kind of like it's like partly they fold off their arm. I think it's this like long. Sorry, I keep backing off this. This like a long, deep fold, like kind of a pocket. You kind of can hold a lot of weight. You just tuck stuff into there.
Oh, that sounds actually kind of nice. I didn't know you could like keep little, Well, then again, you described their food.
But,
right.
Their food kind of sucks. I don't really want a pocket full of chickpeas or whatever.
5 things of chickpeas.
If they had that bloomin' onion, dude, little bloomin' onion sticks down in that pocket.
I've never wanted a bloomin' onion to touch any part of my skin but my mouth and fingers. I can imagine rubbing against your arm.
Adhere to your toga.
You would see the oils leaking through your toga in a heartbeat.
I wear a black toga.
It wouldn't look great. It wouldn't look great in the forum.
Yeah. So like, let's see. What I guess like the first slave would probably be like a little toga helper. Could you just have like they were so specific? You can't just have a little do boy that just follows you around and just does everything. Hold my doors open.
Yeah, of course. I mean, if you're not one of the wealthy, if you're like a small farmer, you might have like 2 or 3 slaves. Who do again? You're not doing they're farming.
It's a humble 2 slaves,
right? Yeah. But usually, in Rome, where people have money, it's a matter of display. Really, having a large household. It's called.
That must suck to be a slave to a poor person, because then you actually have to do like hard labor. Whereas if you're like a super wealthy person's slave, it's like, I just got to comb hair like twice a day, maybe. Yeah.
And usually you get a much better shot at being freed than you do if you're, a slave out in the countryside. It actually can be kind of a nice launching pad. Let's say, the master dies, you get freed in his will.
Yeah.
And you have a trade of some sort. You kind of set yourself up for, in that trade.
You scrubbed my ass for 40 years. Excellently.
I guess you're allowed freedom.
Freedom.
Right. Yeah. Now scrub all of Rome's asses.
Yes.
Go forth and prosper.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Huh. The
pursuit of happiness right there.
Yeah. You guys got anything else?
Well, just like I think we asked this last time. Sorry, I got just a massive strain of fucking text right then. About like if you could, there's something an event or a place that if you could, hop in a time machine, experience it, or confirm that it was real, or
right.
just really experience it. Do you have like a set, like this is what you want to see more than anything, or do you have a couple like?
Well, I think I'm trying to remember. I may mention this one last time because I think I
asked this last time.
But there's a couple things. I mean, in Rome itself, I think going to Rome would be the coolest experience. Just 'cause it's the mega city of the ancient world. It's where where the action's happening for better and worse. I would love to see one of these grand imperial festivals. That included everything from the gladiatorial games to the beast hunts to the chariot races. To see Rome at its peak, all decked up for one of these festivals, would have been fascinating. And what I think I mentioned last time, if you asked this question last time, which I've forgotten too, to be honest, that was for Rome's millennium. So at that point, the emperor was Philip the Arab. That's where he came from, and he put on this massive show that included exotic animals, all kinds of games and events celebrating the 1,000 years of Roman history. And for a historian to go back and say the Romans viewed their own history in that way, I think would be really, really cool. The Jubilee. Yeah. I mean, there's some battles that would have been really cool to see bird's eye, just kind of see how it actually played out, and not to be among the blood and the carnage.
You can do that in Total War.
Exactly, right. Yeah, Total War side. Like, oh, that's how that worked out. Even like I mentioned this before, this Battle of Mons Graupius, where Agricola conquered the Scots, or the people who became the Scots later. They have all these war chariots come galloping down this hillside and stuff. The Romans like open ranks, and it would have been very cool to see, from again bird's eye vantage. But or even like it's like Marcus Aurelius fights these great coalitions of German tribes, and one of their allies are the Sarmatians, these horsemen who are pretty much proto-knights. They're in full armor, full scale armor, as are their horses, and so they're super heavy cavalry. And there's one famous battle where a whole line of Sarmatians charges across the frozen Danube at the Romans, and they have to kind of so they're on ice, sheer ice, and they kind of balance on their shields. And it's like pike line and knock these guys right off their horses, and that'd be really a cool cinematic moment, something like that. So there's all kinds of things, we just and again, like I said, things that we just don't know. Yeah. We want to know more about, even like the day that Caesar is killed, for example, knowing how that played out. Even though we have a lot of evidence for that, seeing what actually happened would be fascinating, I think. Yeah.
Well, do you think like all of them came in and stabbed him at the same time, like a flash mob, or do you think like one guy did it and it was like,
he's not dead yet, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, supposedly this sort of probably one guy first, and it's like he's kind of going,
yeah,
it's actually really easy. Yeah,
it really just slides right in.
Barely even fighting back.
Yeah. He was super old. Yeah.
How old was he when he got stabbed?
56, I think.
No, that's like ancient back then.
Yeah, but that's again, he's actually not that old. He was kind of sickly. He had seizures and stuff.
Who was it that like flooded the Colosseum? Was that a thing? And they did the boat shows and stuff. Shows, the boat girls.
Boat shows. Yeah, right. Yeah,
they did the battles with it and stuff. What was that about?
Yeah, the Naumachia is what it's called. Okay. These kind of staged naval battles, and so the emperor who finishes the Colosseum, Titus, he stages supposedly one of these naval battles in the Colosseum. But how this would have worked is kind of hard to figure. It's not a very big arena. There must have been kind of small boats. And after this, his successor builds this kind of sophisticated underworld of the Colosseum that couldn't have flooded without causing a lot of problems. So I think it was like kind of a one-off thing. There was an artificial lake right outside Rome where they did this more routinely. And there were apparently whole fleets in the biggest ones where they would like get prisoners of war, and they were kind of forced to enact an entire battle out where they're really fighting for their lives.
Did the winners get freed or anything? Like, what was your?
Pretty much. I mean, it wasn't great. You just weren't killed in the battle. Like I think Caesar actually he stages. Claudius, after he conquers Britain, has a whole battle between two large armies of captured Britons, and it was a fight to the death. I think. I mean, there was. So I guess you just kind of want to not die in the battle and hope that they, just remain a slave. It wasn't a great way to be.
Hope you don't see any friends on the other side.
Yeah, right. Ooh, sorry, Sextus. Yeah, this is not personal. So yeah, again, the Romans, human rights wasn't a really big thing for them, but
yeah.
Okay, so let's say you had slaves, right?
Here, he's going back.
Yeah, I'm going back because
he loves the slave stuff.
No. Yeah. Well, I'm assuming these gladiators are also enslaved, right?
Almost all.
Yeah. Now, in America, there's a lot of parallels between, obviously,
right. So Rome
basically
America,
the same thing.
Yeah, right.
But our slavery
Rome
here in the
equals gay
U.S.
America, but yeah.
had
basically, yeah.
There's definitely a racial element to it, where if you saw, a black guy walking around, you'd be like, where you going from, buddy? But like in Rome, I'm assuming, like, how'd they mark slaves?
Well, they didn't, honestly. Runaways, because slavery is never racial in the ancient world. They're aware, of course, that different races, but they don't really care about that. It matters much more about whether you know Greek and Latin, how cultured you are, and more importantly, how rich you are and who you know. If you're a guy who happens to be, of African descent, North African descent, like Septimius Severus, but you have good Latin and Greek and you're rich, you're gonna become emperor, as he did. Same thing with Philip the Arab. He was kind of from the edges of the Arabian desert and everything else. They don't really care what you look like so much. But slavery is a status. You're enslaved, and they might mark you. There was a proposal once in the 1st century that all slaves in Rome would be forced to wear a certain costume. And they realized there are so many slaves in Rome that this would be a mistake. They realized how there is their numbers, right? Exactly, and then they have an uprising. If you were a runaway, you might be branded or tattooed. Tattoos in the ancient world are very much a sign, literally a stigma, a sign of punishment. And so, like on your forehead. So a forehead tattoo means you're a slave, or if you're a brand and you're against someone prominent. You're right.
Just grow my hair out. Get bangs.
It's a whole mini industry concealing these tattoos. Or people like beauty patches and like kind of paste them over, if they're freed later.
Yeah.
But in general, no. I mean, slaves wouldn't wear a toga because they weren't citizens, really unless they were freed. But in general, they would not look much different from an ordinary Roman. Just have a tunic.
Seems like if I was in charge of guarding my master's fortunes, it would be real easy for me to fill up my giant toga pocket.
You couldn't wear a toga,
but you could steal one from this guy. Fill up your big pocket with some coins, and then move to the other side of Rome, and they would never fucking. What was the population max in Rome at the time at its peak?
We assume about 1 million people.
1 million people. They're never gonna fucking find you. You could be 3 streets over.
Well, you do wonder. I mean, it happened, where slaves just got away. Like Cicero, the orator, had a slave who was like his librarian, one of his most trusted slaves, who just left and went back to his homeland, which is what's now Croatia, and they never found him. He just got away. So this happened, but it was harder for people who were in the countryside because they often were chained, or at least they were in the middle of nowhere, so they couldn't get anywhere. In the city, it seems that the reason more slaves didn't run away is that they had more incentive to wait. They had more hope anyway. They could be freed and get a real advantage in Roman society, be in the clear. Or their position was such that it might be safer to be a slave. That Rome was a hard city to live in, or it could be if you didn't know people. Yeah. And that if you weren't treated poorly, it might be you could live this way. So it's kind of a push and a pull. Where there some people had incentive to run away and did successfully, but many more from both the threat of punishments, which were terrible. If they did catch you, it was you weren't going to fare well, and because it could be a life that wasn't terrible. It seems that was enough to keep them in place more often than not.
Yeah, I forgot. Yeah, I forgot you said they have specific tasks. I guess
right.
That's not the worst thing in the world. Get 3 square meals a day. You just have to comb someone's hair, or put on a toga every once in a while. Doesn't seem that bad. Yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. And that's post sponge though, right? So it's pretty clean.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go over it once with a rock.
Exactly. A once over pumice.
Sire, do you want the washable rock or the sponge today? I've been developing this leaf that maybe we could use, but
no, slaps it.
Barbarian.
Yeah. You want me to cut off your fucking hands? Get that washable rock.
Pants and toilet paper.
Extra jagged. I want that one.
Exactly.
I've invented toilet paper.
The deep
Barbarian. It is funny how they just had their traditions that were just very obviously just a downgrade to other things. But they stuck to them. They had their identity. They said, hey,
Stubborn
we stole our society and culture fair and square from the Greeks. And we want to keep it that way. What about Greeks? Did they have togas? Yeah, they had togas, right?
Yeah.
If they became Roman citizens. But no, they wore tunics, or tunics of various design. Togas are a Roman thing only.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's one of the things that defines the Romans, or we actually define themselves.
That was their one original idea, was the
giant, really
inconvenient,
giant ass sheet.
Wow, they rock.
You could make a pocket out of your sleeve.
Which is pretty cool, speaking objectively. And they're good at concrete eventually, but yeah.
Did a lot.
Yeah. And law, I guess. They were pretty good at law. But otherwise, pretty limited.
No, just togas. Just togas.
So
togas, aqueducts,
bringing up law, you said, like, if you're a senator, you have a chance for just 1 year to be, like, consul or whatever. That means you're basically, like, ruler for a year, right?
You have a lot of important. You lead the armies originally in the Republic. You have a lot of, the Romans call it dignitas. You get a lot of respect, pretty much. It's a society that's driven in a lot of ways by respect, that you get, and so you acquire a lot of honor by holding these positions. So, but you have practical power too. You win more glory for yourself, which matters most to these guys.
Rodney Dangerfield would be.
I get
huge
respect. I get respect.
Yeah, I get respect.
Right. He understood. He understood.
Yeah. So I was wondering, like, if you're like consul or whatever, and you fuck over somebody while you're in power. I mean, like, I bet you there's a lot of incentive to not rustle too many feathers while you're in power, because you're only there for a year and you don't know who's getting the next lineup. Or was there just a lot of people like fucking somebody over while they're in power and then
get it while you can?
Yeah, and then you
probably kill them before the year's up, right?
I mean, yes and no. So there were cliques, and there were kind of what amounted to almost political parties in some eras, where if you had enough powerful friends, you could screw somebody comprehensively and know they'd have your back after you were out of power. But one thing when you were in power, if you were governor, you couldn't be prosecuted. So like Julius Caesar, for example, remains in command in Gaul for a very long time because he has a lot of debts back in Rome. And he knows that he's going to be hauled to court the minute he drops his governorship. But so there were perks that you couldn't be tried for things when you were holding an office, though you could be right afterward. And like a lot of provincial governors try to like absolutely pillage their provinces, while during the Republic. But then there's a law that allows them to be hauled to court right after their governor and be taken to task.
So that's how like emperors and stuff, they could just get away with anything. Yeah,
essentially, yes.
So that's why they just murdered him. I asked earlier, I was like, why? There was no other thing they could do instead of just stabbing them to death. But I guess they were just
it
was really into that. Was it the unitary executive theory?
Exactly right.
If the president does it, then it ain't illegal.
Exactly right. And that's honestly that's there's one jurist who says, if the emperor does it, it's law. If the emperor says it, it's law.
God, Dick Cheney would love to be a fucking Roman consul. That would be badass.
He would have enjoyed ancient Rome, I think.
Yeah, he would have been all over that.
He would have done quite well.
Yeah.
But it's fun stuff.
Well, wait, hold on. Where's my book?
Oh, yeah.
It's time we shill this thing.
Please do.
Yeah. Hell yeah. Anyways, guys.
I gotta pick one up.
New book by Dr. Garrett Ryan. I noticed you didn't put your goddamn doctor on the front. That gives you more credibility. You know that, right? You need to put
It seems pretentious,
A lot of balls putting a guy with a thumbs down, for the judge a book by its cover. People are like, oh, this guy doesn't even like it. The guy on the book hates this.
Boo. No doctor.
Hey, that's bold.
I'm not. I think for people that would buy a history book, there is a little bit of pretension there by putting doctor in there, but
this is like history. Opens it up, a
it's
little
like
more.
Academic.
It's like a fun history book, though. So
I guess so. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I kind of waffled about it. My publisher put Garrett Ryan, PhD initially. I'm like, I don't know how I feel about that.
How do you become an esquire? Is that like
it's a lawyer? I think.
Is it? I thought it was just kind of like a gentleman, an esquire.
Or I suppose
I'm a self-titled gentleman.
Right, at least one walnut door in your house. I think you can.
Garrett Ryan Esquire would be awesome.
Right, yes.
Yeah, but anyways, name of the book: Insane Emperors, Sunken Cities, and Earthquake Machines.
It's a badass title.
More frequently asked questions about the ancient Greeks and Romans. But
I like the color on this one too.
Yeah.
The
other one's orange.
color scheme. Yeah,
kind of.
The other one was good too, but yeah, they look good side by side.
I noticed, by the way,
like
plus I was complaining about the lack of pictures in the last one. This one you got looks like 5 extra pictures.
Yes, I fought tooth and nail for those 5 extra pictures.
Yeah, not color though. You need to really get on that publisher and be like, "What the fuck, guys?" Like,
yeah, I try, but they publish the book, so I can't complain.
Yeah,
that's fine.
Come on, man. How many of these things we gotta sell for you to have like a big coffee table book with like a picture every page?
Ooh,
every
picture book.
You sell all of the books for that. Yeah. There have to be a lot of books for that.
I want like a big coffee table book type thing.
It'd be fun. It's fun. So I had a Korean translation of the first book of Naked Statues.
Really?
And it was superior in every way, the original book. It was like twice the length. It had 100 illustrations in color, many of them.
Oh,
I was like, what are these guys doing? Like, let's switch over to these dudes. But
they have respect for literature, unlike
they do.
Yeah.
Yes.
And pictures.
Yeah. Pictures, that's the important one. I want more of those.
Yeah, I'm on YouTube. I get it.
Yeah.
But no, it's a fun book. The kind of things we talked about today, these questions about daily life and all these kind of weird and wonderful facts about the Romans. It's jam-packed with that stuff. So if you enjoyed that, hopefully you'd enjoy that too.
Yeah, you kind of have a way of teaching history to someone that has no idea what the hell is. It's like it's like history for non-academic people. Because like the table of contents is just such.
You really can only teach someone that doesn't know, though. So.
No.
Well, no, there's definitely some books in the academic world that are written for other academics. But like the table of contents here is written for like dudes for sure.
Book. Yeah.
Part 1: did they drink beer? Part 2: did they do drugs? Part 3: did they have dentists? Like it's just questions where you're like, hell yeah, I want to know about that.
Yeah.
Did they attend concerts? Like these are just. I should have just read these and then had you recite the entire book from start to finish. Yeah. Oh wait, actually, here's one that ties in with that that whole slavery thing. If you could like escape, how did they prove their identity? Like, what's to keep you from just being like, I'm actually that guy?
Right, and
they didn't have IDs.
They don't, right? And so honestly, they're
a little tablet.
Really, the idea is that you're. It's kind of a face-to-face society where everyone knows everybody else in communities.
A million?
Well, even in Rome, like you have a certain circle, like a neighborhood, and stuff. So there are people who know you. And almost everything you do, if you're locally anyway, there's someone who will know you or will know of you or your family and kind of attest to who you are. There are documents, there's like citizenship documents that exist for certain classes of people, above all soldiers, who are kind of in the heavily bureaucratic world. But for the most part, the short answer is, that you live in a world where people are expected to know you. And if they didn't know you, you could, within certain limits, within your own social competence, pretend to be somebody else. But you had to have the right social knowledge. So you couldn't, if you were just a peasant, pretend to be a senator, for example, you gotten a toga from somewhere and convinced someone to put it on you the right way. You wouldn't talk like a senator. You wouldn't sound like one.
Dude, imagine being a confidence man.
Right, you could do it.
Yeah,
if you were good enough at what you did, and you could kind of slip through the cracks, and there are many cracks, you could pull it off.
Catch me if you can.
Catch me if you can.
Right, exactly.
Ancient Greece.
Yeah.
The emperor. Maybe.
And so it's like very busted up into communities. So like Manhattan has like the different boroughs and stuff, and then there's within those different neighborhoods that were really tight. Were there equivalents in Rome where it was like, did they have like a Hell's Kitchen type?
Oh yeah. There. One of my fun videos is called "Bad Neighborhoods in Ancient Rome." We talk about like the slum districts, but yeah. So there are the neighborhood. There are 14 regions in Rome, which are kind of the boroughs of ancient Rome. These big areas, and then there are within them what we would call wards, vici, which are neighborhoods pretty much, and each one has probably a few thousand people living in it. And they have like a local, like a shrine that's the center of the neighborhood, and administrative officials, kind of like the aldermen of the ward. And so there are, on this local level, kind of both governmental organizations, religious organizations, and pretty tight-knit, we think anyway, these local communities. So like people would drink in the same places. They go to the same markets. And so even though people on the other side of Rome wouldn't know who you were, within your little neighborhood, quite a few people would know who you were. Probably maybe a few hundred people would be able to identify you, pick you out from a crowd. And so, yeah, even in Rome, this big, seemingly anonymous city, there's a lot of local networks that kind of bind you more tightly than you might think to, communities.
So, Sam, Manhattan is one of the boroughs, but I can't remember. What are the smaller ones called? They're just like the boroughs. Manhattan? Yeah, because Manhattan is
right. It's one of the 5 boroughs. Right?
Yeah, I don't know what like the little neighborhoods are called.
Maybe just
neighborhoods. I think they're just neighborhoods, right?
Yeah, I guess like Harlem, like
subborough.
Subborough, right? Boroughlet.
One of the Max Boroughs states.
Yeah, right.
How big does this go?
Mega bro, yeah.
My mom once tried convincing me, like she was one of those people who would just argue a bad point, even if she knew she was wrong, just to win an argument. And so she tried convincing me that an interstate was inside of a state, but if it went across state lines, it was an intra-state. I was like, Mom, I think that might be the dumbest thing I've ever fucking heard. And she was straight up dying on that hill. And she's like, I got her to just admit, she was like, I don't know.
I've never fought for anything in my life, but I'm at this point.
Yeah.
It is an intrastate. Please just take it. Like, just accept it. We can move on. You never even have to bring it up again.
Just let me.
I don't want to have the embarrassment.
One win, and you were like, no.
Yeah.
Anyways, thank you for coming on.
Yep.
You're a great guest as always.
Yeah.
And you educated not only me, but my co-hosts and the thousands of people that thought Rome and Greece were just super gay.
Woke America.
Yeah, woke. Just an even gayer version of America.
Well, I'm pleased to help as far as I can, guys. Thanks so much for inviting me. It was a great time.
Yeah.
Thanks for coming on again.
Kind of sucks that they weren't as gay as I thought they were, but
disappointing.
It's a little bit disappointing.
Realizing Santa Claus isn't real and all that.
If it makes you feel any better, they're probably having more sex than you think. It just sounds like the titles weren't really
exactly right. Sort of how they define themselves, right? Yeah.
If you went there, it'd be super gay, though. So just remember that. If you went back in time, the way you think.
Me? Yeah.
Like,
the first, this guy would get a toga slave. I would be getting just like gay lover slave would be my first one.
Tug off slave.
Yeah.
All right. Awesome. Well, on that note,
I would live in a fucking pot like Diogenes, and I'd just have a little guy in there. My head would be sticking out the top. Just looking.
You can just tell when you know it. That's it.
Yeah.
I got just enough money to get this guy, and then I stopped working.
In this pot house. Awesome.
When
it starts steaming, you know it's
the
guy's doing a good job. The kettle starts squealing. Okay. I think that's too much.
That's too much. We gotta keep this educational for the people.
Yes.
Yeah.
For our
all right. Anyways,
audience.
that's the end. Later, guys. Oh, and buy the book.
Oh yeah. Please.
Right there.
That's the important part. Because if you buy enough of these, then the next one he promised me would be a flip book of super gay scenes. Yeah. Greek gay drawings by Dr. Garrett Ryan Esquire.
1,000 pages.
1,000 pages. None of them are historical. These are just homegrown. I drew these myself.
Mostly it's a passion project for me.
You were right about the video title. It'd make an even better book title. Just Rome equal gay America.
Rome equals gay America? Question mark and Terabang. Yeah.
And more.
And more questions.
All right. That's the end.